is suing his ex-girlfriend, Whitney Clark, for the remainder of rent money and a corgi dog.
Court come to order. All rise. Have a seat, please. Judge, case 3067, Sears versus Clark. Thank you. Mr. Sears, you and the defendant were in a relationship, and from what I gather from your papers, you entered into a one-year lease to live together.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant moved out prior to the termination of the lease. You want her to be responsible for the remainder of the lease from the time she moved out until the termination of the lease. That's your first cause of action. Second one is that you claim that as a result of self-help, the defendant came in and helped herself to your dog.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defendant says it's her dog. Her defense to your action is that she was forced to move out because of your violent behavior. The dog is hers. She paid for the dog. And she's countersuing because she says that there was a loan that she made to you a while ago, which she'll tell me about. And you kept some uniforms that belonged to her from National Guard. She wants those returned, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Why don't you tell me, Mr. Sears, when did you and the defendant start to date?
We started dating March 6th of 2020.
How did you meet?
We met on Facebook dating. We moved in together in June of 2020.
You lived in the same town?
Yes, Your Honor.
When you moved in together, were you working?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
And you?
Yes,
working?
Your Honor.
Your agreement was to split expenses on this apartment?
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
What was the rent?
The first move-in, our rent was just $350, I believe.
Just a second. You mean you moved into more than one apartment together?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm talking about the apartment. Let's move forward. You lived in June of 2020 in one residence. Did you subsequently move into the residence that is the subject
Yes.
of this lawsuit?
Yes, Your Honor.
On what date was that?
January of this year, Your Honor.
Now, Ms. Clark, when you lived in prior residences with the plaintiff, you were also employed
Yes, Your Honor.
and you split expenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And that was the same arrangement for this apartment.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're both on the lease of this apartment.
Yes, Your Honor.
What was the rent?
It's $850, Your Honor.
Now, there came a time after you moved into the apartment that you made a suggestion about inviting in another roommate.
Your Honor, that was true. However...
Wait, just a second. That's true. But let's start with there.
Okay.
In what month did you want to bring in another roommate?
It was the early February, it had to have been.
And who was that other roommate?
My best friend's girlfriend and her daughter.
They move in with you, the two of them?
They eventually moved in for temporary.
Just a second. Did they move in with you?
They did not sign a lease.
I didn't ask you.
Yes,
Let's not be tricky with me. Did
Yes,
they move
Your
in?
Honor. Yes, they did, Your Honor.
On what date?
Would have been the end of February, Your Honor.
So two of them moved in. Were they paying rent?
They were paying rent at the beginning, yes, Your Honor.
How much?
There was an agreement for $600.
Just a second. And when was the first check made out for rent? Was that February or March?
It would have been late March, Your Honor.
So she's paying half the rent.
Yes.
To you.
No.
To whom?
To the landlord, Your Honor.
So what are you doing here? The rent is $800. She's paying $400. You're paying $400.
She's not staying there the remainder of the lease. She's not on the lease, Your Honor.
I don't care if she's on the lease or not. She pays directly to the landlord. What does that have to do with whether or not you're out any money?
Correct, Your Honor.
So what are you doing here about money? You're not going to get any money from her.
Your Honor.
You're whole. Listen to me. You're whole. You know you're slippery.
My apologies, Your Honor.
I just get the sense you're slippery.
I try not to be, Your Honor.
Now, I don't care what happened between the two of you. You brought in another roommate. You're still there. You want her to pay her half of the rent. Pay attention. Slippery, pay attention.
Okay.
What you're suggesting to me is on an $800 a month rent, you were supposed to split the rent. She moved out. You have somebody who's living in the house now who is the daughter of the mother of your best friend's girlfriend who is paying you $400 a month. So if I award you from the time she moved out until the remainder of the lease, you come out ahead.
No, I won't, Your Honor.
You come out ahead. You have no rent.
I had to pay all the deposits all over again.
Just a second. You have No rent.
I don't want to live there, Your Honor.
You don't want to live there.
No, Your Honor.
Well, who cares whether you want to live there or not?
She forced me into this and then made me pay the
Forced
deposit
you
all
into-
over again.
Just a second. Forced you into what?
A whole new lease. Well, I was already in a lease, Your Honor.
You mean you're talking about the apartment you just moved into? The apartment that we're here about?
Yes, but Your Honor, I was living at a place I was happy with before this.
Oh, who cares? Mr. Sears, grow up. Grow up. Let's talk about the dog.
Friend Whitney Clark wrongfully moved out and took his corgi. Whitney is countersuing for an unpaid loan.
When was the dog purchased?
May 25th, Your Honor. And
Of
I have
what
the
year?
invoice right here.
Just a second. May 25th of what year?
This year, Your Honor.
2023.
And if you notice, the invoice is in my name, Your Honor.
I don't care if the invoice is in your name. The dog purchased from whom?
I purchased the
No,
dog.
just a second. That's not, my answer's slippery. I said, who was the dog purchased from? Not I purchased the dog. Who was the dog purchased from?
A breeder in Texas, Your Honor.
Okay. And you don't live in Texas, do you?
No, Your Honor.
Where do you live?
I live in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
How did the dog get to you?
We drove all the way to Texas to get the dog, Your Honor.
So I assume that this is a purebred corgi.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You have a photograph of the dog?
I don't have a
I do,
photo.
Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. Oh, pretty dog. You know who had corgis?
Queen Elizabeth, Your Honor.
She did. It was her breed of choice. Was the dog registered?
Yes, Your Honor.
In whose name?
Both of ours, Your Honor.
Can I see?
I have it on my phone, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. You have the registration?
No, Your Honor, she did the
just-
registration online
I'd like to see it.
after the purchase. Your Honor, while they're looking back at that, can I say one more thing about the rent? I have evidence that state that she said that she would pay her half.
Good. Okay, so the dog is jointly owned by both of you. Here, would you want to send this up to him?
Your Honor, that registration's done online after the fact. Anybody can do the registration. Anybody.
Mr. Sears, that's absolutely true. You didn't, did you?
I did not.
Shh. You didn't, did you?
No,
And it would seem to me, Mr. Sears, that if she was trying to make her case that the dog belonged to her, she wouldn't have put your name down as the owner.
I have evidence that says that she didn't want the dog.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
She didn't want to take care of the dog, as a matter of
Shh,
fact.
just a second. I don't know what date this was, but this suggests that she was upset because the dog chewed up something.
She tore up the carpet. And I got videos and evidence showing where I took the dog around town. I took her to campus to meet students. I took her to my friend's job. We were running around with the dog every day. We were with that dog. She never once took care of that dog.
What I'm telling you, sir, is that you had the dog for 5 weeks, the two of you together.
Yes, Your Honor.
5 weeks. Not a long time. It's almost like the time that you might spend fostering a dog. So nobody developed a years-long attachment to this animal, or 2 years, or 3 years. You got the dog the end of March, and you had the dog the month of April,
Yes, Your Honor.
right? And May, you had a big fight, and she left the beginning of May, May 3rd.
Yes.
So the dog wasn't with either one of you all that long. Okay, where is the dog now?
She is at my mom's house, Your Honor.
What's she doing at your mother's house?
She's
Shh, be very, very careful with me. She's at your mother's house. Where are you living?
I am living between my brother's house and my mom's.
How long has the dog, I think the dog's name is Cookie,
Yes, Your Honor.
how long has Cookie been staying at your mother's house? And I'm going to call her if I don't get an answer that I like. Do you understand that?
Yes,
She
Your Honor.
won't know what the call's about.
Yes, Your Honor.
How long has the dog been living at your mother's house?
Since May, Your Honor.
And he's in the apartment.
Yes, Your Honor.
He's getting the dog back. Do you understand?
Yes, Your
He's
Honor.
getting the dog back. Where do you come from?
Stillwater, Oklahoma, Your Honor.
Oklahoma. Yeah. And you want to go back there, right?
Yes.
You want to go back there.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. Well,
Can I add something?
you're going.
Am I allowed to say something, Your Honor?
I don't need you.
Okay.
I mean, if you had the dog living with you, then I'd have a discussion. But clearly, Mr. Sears is correct, at least about one thing, and that is that you were unable to take care of this dog because from the time you moved out, you gave the dog to your mother, and you move around. I don't know who you're living with.
Am I allowed to ask a question about his, what he's stating?
You're not allowed to ask a question about it. The only one who asks questions here is me.
Okay.
Did you hear anything that isn't correct? Is the dog at her mother's house? That's a yes or a no.
I'm talking about what he's suing her for. I thought he was suing her for $800.
He's not suing her for anything. I dismissed that part of his claim. He's not getting rent. Pay attention. Don't have a story fixed in your head.
No, $800 for the dog. He didn't want
No.
the dog. He wanted money for the dog.
No, he's not getting money for the dog.
I don't want money
He's
for
not
the
getting
dog,
money
Your
for
Honor.
the dog.
Okay.
Pay attention. Okay. By the way, you have family in Oklahoma?
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Who?
My mother lives in Enid. My sister lives in Perry. My brother's
How far away does your mother live from her mother?
roughly an hour and 30 minutes or so.
Does your mother like the dog?
My mother loves the dog.
Okay. When you leave today, you're going to call your mother, and your mother is going to make arrangements to meet halfway, to meet his mother, and your mother is going to transfer the dog to his mother so that when he gets home, he gets the dog. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
As soon as that happens, you get your airplane ticket and your appearance fee. Got it?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You say that you've made a loan.
Has accused his ex-girlfriend, Whitney Clark, of taking his corgi and leaving him with the balance of their lease payments. Whitney claims Kensington owes for an unpaid loan.
So, Mr. Sears,
Yes, Your Honor.
you don't get your money because you're whole. You have a tenant. Tenant is paying half the rent. You're paying half the rent. Not fair for you to live alone and not pay any rent. So you have to pay rent. But you're going to get your dog back. Now, we have a counterclaim. You say that you've made a loan to Mr. Sears. In what month and year did you make this alleged loan? If you have to think about it, you have no case. But I'll let you think about it for a second because it's your counterclaim. You should have these answers right at the tip of
believe
your
it-
fingers.
I believe it was in December of 2021, Your Honor.
For what?
It was for a car loan.
Between December of 2021 and May 3rd, 2023, did Mr. Sears make any payments on this alleged loan?
I believe he made one, Your Honor.
You do. Well, when did he make one?
I'm not exactly sure, Your Honor.
Well, that's what happens when you make a loan. You keep a record. You make a loan how much it was. You make a loan what the payments were. How do you expect me to figure it out?
I'm not sure, Your Honor.
I'm not sure either. Now, how much was the alleged loan for? Now, you're looking up here. You're looking over there. That suggests to me you don't know exactly what it was for.
I believe it was $2,000, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
I didn't ask you a question.
All right.
Don't interrupt my train of thought. I'm an old person. I need all the help I can get, and being interrupted doesn't help me. I lose my train of thought.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Then nobody will follow me, and then we won't have a show. Okay. Ms. Clark, I want to explain something to you. I've read your answer, and I've read your counterclaim. Your counterclaim said that the loan was $3,000. Here you say, well, I believe it was $2,000. It happened 2 years ago. Did he make any payments? I don't know. I think I made one. So what you need in order to have a loan, which is a contract, is a finite amount. What is the loan, which you don't know? What is the payments? I don't know. How do you expect a court to figure out your loosey-goosey finances? That's not our job. If you make a loan to somebody, you have to have an amount of money and a payment schedule.
Your Honor, I do have the payments. The payments were $210.
So did he make payments?
No, Your Honor.
Oh, and did you enforce the payments over 2 years?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you do that? Did you take him to court? Did you sue him in small claims court? What did you do?
Or we made an agreement for him to pay for the car because he told me he was buying the car for me.
Can you ask?
Oh, just shh. Sears, so far you're ahead of the game with the dog. I wouldn't say anything else if I were you until I ask you a question.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
So you drove the car.
We both
You-
did, Your Honor.
Well, you just said to me, he said he was buying the car for you. How many cars did the two of you have when you were living together?
2, Your Honor.
What make of cars? What I was going to say what brand, but it's not a brand, it's a make. What make of cars?
It was a Dodge Stratus, and
So who drove the Dodge?
I did.
And is that the car in question?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. And for how long did you drive that car?
About a year, Your Honor.
Who paid for the car?
I did, Your Honor.
You made the monthly payments.
Yes, Your Honor. I have this bank statement right here.
Is that correct, Mr.
Yes,
Sears?
actually it is, but there's a lot more into this than you think. That was actually a title loan on my truck to get her the car. She's making payments
Where is
to
the
a loan
car?
company.
Just a second. Where's the car now?
on the side of the highway, blew the rod on it.
Who did?
I was driving when it happened.
Okay. I had enough of you both. You have to move on with your lives, children. You get your dog back,
Thank you, Your Honor.
and I told you how that's going to happen within the next half hour. Get in the back and make it happen. Are you happy now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you happy now?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. Be happy.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We're done.
Case is now closed. Court is adjourned.
I don't believe it's fair that he should keep the dog because I did pay for her and I sent him the money to pay for her, so it's kind of hard to explain.
I am ecstatic to get the dog back. That's all. That's the main thing that we were here for. It's one thing we really wanted. We just wanted to bring Cookie home.
It was because she was tearing up the apartment and I was afraid that we were going to have to pay for the damages, but what I really wanted was just get out of there and have her with me.
She was doing it out of spite. She was mad about the argument that ensued. And she wasn't happy with the outcome, so she did everything she could to attack me.
Because I felt like he was abusive and possessive.
She was mad. She come home late one night, and her classmates had an assignment saying that she wasn't doing her part, and she took it out on the wrong person.
It's been going on the whole time we were together, but it was really bad when we moved into her since March.
Oh, we're done. I'm so happy. I'm actually with a new woman now. She treats me right, and I couldn't be happier.
I hope I don't have to see him again.
Cookies are coming. Cookies coming home. That's great.
My takeaways, it's a classic duty to mitigate windfall case. She came into this lease in February, broke it in May, and the plaintiff may not like what she did, may have been annoying, but for that remaining time, he found someone else to replace her. And if you have that money, it doesn't matter to him what source it's coming from, he's made whole, and the court's not going to step in and give him a windfall.
Right. Smart. So smart to go to law school.
Case number 3035, Zackerson versus Farver. All parties, please come forward.
Sarabelle Zackerson is suing dog groomer Tracy Farver for negligence after losing her dog, Benji.
Miss Ackerson, you're a dog lover.
Yes,
And for years you had 5 dogs or 4?
5.
What kind did you have?
I have a Maltese poodle, I have a cabin poodle, I have a poodle, Shih Tzu, and some dog I found in the street. I don't know what kind it is, but yeah.
Small dogs.
Yes, it's small. They don't weigh more than 15 pounds.
And for a very long time, Miss Farver has groomed your dogs.
That's correct, just under.
How many years has she groomed your dog?
I can't exact the time, but it's gonna be almost 10 years.
And you usually bring the dogs to her how often?
I never bring my dog to her house, always to their shop. She used to have a business shop they call TLC Grooming, and that's where I bring my dogs over.
When did that change?
December the 1st, I texted her, say, I'm gonna bring my dogs tomorrow, 6 of my babies, to the shop. And then she said, oh, I was about to text you, I'm gonna close the shop for good. And I said, oh, wow, what happened? She said, well, I had to take care of my husband. He's kinda sick with her heart failure stuff. So I don't want to be away from him. So you can bring them to my house and I can groom them. So, and I said, well, I want to send my brother over
So
there.
you were sending 6 dogs?
6. That day I sent 6.
And you decided to have your brother bring them to the house?
That's correct.
And that was on December 2nd?
That was December the 2nd.
Okay, and how long did the dogs usually stay there? For the day?
Say to end of the day, because they're 5.
So 1 full day?
Yeah.
How much do you pay her for the 6 dogs?
Depend what you do, because some of them go every week, some of them once a month, some of them twice a month.
How much did she charge for each dog?
If you go once a month, 50. If you go twice, 25.
I see.
Depend.
So there's less work
Yeah,
if you maintain the grooming.
That's correct.
Got it. So on December 2nd, who brought the dogs to her house?
My brother.
Is that this
That's
man
correct.
here? Okay. Could you step up, please, and tell me your name?
My name is Bishop Bean, and my sister's brother.
You brought the 6 dogs to the defendant's home?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you brought them into her house.
I brought them up to her and just gave it to her by the sliding door,
How?
just one by one.
So you handed them to her individually, unleashed,
Yeah, by holding them on the
and you just handed them to her?
yeah,
Okay. Where did you pull up in the car?
to the driveway.
You brought them into the door, or she came out?
I brought it to her.
Okay. Did you also pick the dogs up?
I picked 4 of them, but one was missing.
So only 5 were sent
Yeah,
that day. When you went to pick up the dogs, you only saw 4, or did you see 1 and 1 ran away?
when I went to pick up the dog, I only realized that there were 4 and 1 was missing. And when I went to ask,
Where did you go? Did you go inside her house?
I didn't go inside the house.
Well,
I picked it up on the side of the driveway.
how?
They opened the door of the driveway. It's a big sliding door that they have that can open just a little bit, so they can hand me the dog.
She handed you the dogs.
Not her, but the son.
Is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, stand up next to your mother. Okay, tell me your name.
Nicholas?
Nicholas, when the plaintiff's brother came to pick up the dogs,
Yes, ma'am.
how many dogs did you give him?
I gave him 4 and asked my coworker to bring out the other one.
You help your mother with grooming?
Not with grooming, but in the mornings I go to a park, pick up dogs that we had scheduled, and then bring them back. Later in the evening, I take them back to the park.
Okay, so you asked a coworker to go get the 5th dog, which was where? In a cage?
And that's what we believed, yes.
What do you mean that's what you believe? You say that you were...
Claims dog groomer Tracy Farver lost her dog Benji while in her care. Tracy is countersuing for the cost of draining her pool.
Okay, so you only turned over 4 dogs
Yes, ma'am.
to the plaintiff,
Yes, ma'am.
plaintiff's brother, and you don't know what happened to the 5th dog,
No, ma'am.
personally,
Personally, no.
and you never saw the 5th dog on the 2nd.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know what happened to the 5th dog?
Yes, ma'am. The 5th dog was released to him. He had
Well, you-
dogs in the
just a
vehicle and
second.
came back to
Will you-
ask me.
Just a second. Were you there?
Well, I was in the salon after the dogs had already been given to him,
Your son only gave him 4 dogs.
but he was not the only one involved in giving the dogs back.
Then you should have brought that person because you weren't there. You should have brought that person because you
know.
weren't there.
Should have.
Well, your son
I
says
think-
he only turned over 4 dogs. He asked his colleague to bring out the other one. The other one wasn't there. Am I getting that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so just don't talk to him. He's talking to me. You can have a seat now. Okay. So, Ms. Farver, bottom line is, you can sit down now.
Thank you, ma'am.
The plaintiff's brother, at her direction, brought you 5 dogs. Only 4 were returned to her, so 1 was missing in action on your watch. 1 dog. That's clear. Now, she's suing for the negligence. She doesn't know what happened to that dog. You have a counterclaim that's sort of ridiculous.
Well, I have proof that she says that she lost her dog there.
Just a
He
second.
misunderstood.
Just a
And
second.
when he counted, he said that Benji ran out with them, but he said that Benji runs away all the time.
Just let
and
me
that he
explain
didn't
something.
have
Let me
anything.
explain something to you. Your witness that you brought with you today said he only turned over 4 dogs to the plaintiff's agent.
But he wasn't the only one that turned over dogs, and then
Just-
he leaves
just-
that
just a second.
situation to go deal with another situation.
Deal with me, and I've said to you, then you didn't bring the second witness because you weren't there. You didn't bring the second witness to say, I did in fact turn over the dog to him.
That
Did
was why I
she,
could not
just
be
a
a second
second,
witness.
did you on December 2nd ever see that dog?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay, that's what I thought. All right, so you're responsible for that dog. Now, the dog was how old?
14 years old.
And what was the breed of that dog?
Maltese Poodle.
When you found out that that dog was missing, I gather you all went back and tried to find it.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
That you all went back to try to find it, and you couldn't locate on your property. How much property do you have, by the way? How many acres property do you have?
It's about 1.5 acres. Do you want to see pictures? It's all.
No, I don't have to
Fenced
see
in, double
pictures. The
fenced.
dog was missing. That's your problem. That's your problem. The dog was missing under your watch. So there's a question of damages because she's entitled to a certain amount of damage for the loss of her dog. Unfortunately, we talk about replacement value. You know, how much is a multi-poo to replace? I don't know. Could you look up, Sarah, the cost? Give me a general price of the cost of a multi-poo. They're cute.
Just on an initial search, so it looks like $2,000 to $3,000 when purchased from a breeder, but can go up to $4,000 for certain colors and reputation.
Okay. So we talk about replacement value. Replacement value is about $2,000. The dog was 14 years old. I'm not even factoring this in. You had that dog for 14 years?
Yes.
Okay, you're entitled to that. This is what your counterclaim is. Your counterclaim is ridiculous, and I'm dismissing it. You say that you were forced to drain the pool because they thought that maybe the dog fell into the pool, and it cost you $2,800 to drain the pool. I don't care. I don't care if you have to drain your whole house. All right, Ms. Rogers, let me see if I understand what your position is. You were in foster care for a long period of time, and at some point you met the defendant's son and became involved with the defendant's son. In what year was that, and how old were you?
June of 2019, I had just turned 18.
And I assume that you either decided to or you had aged out of the residential foster care system, and you were invited to live in the defendant's home.
Yes, ma'am.
And you lived in the defendant's home from June 2019 until when?
Until October of 2021, when the house fire occurred.
And what were you doing between 2019 and 2021?
As in occupation?
What were you doing? Were you in school? Were you working? What were you doing?
I was doing full-time school, and then I had a couple of jobs here and there.
What full-time school?
I was in school to become a social worker for foster youth.
In what months were you in school and year?
August 2019, all the way up until now.
Okay. And who was paying for your school?
The state of California.
Are you almost finished with a degree?
Yes, ma'am.
What school?
I'm going to Stanislaus State in Turlock.
Is that where you were going to school when you were living with them?
I went to a junior college with them, and then halfway through living with them, I switched to Stanislaus State, which is 4-year.
Were you receiving housing subsidies from foster care or just tuition for school?
The last 3 months up until I turned 21, I was receiving house subsidy.
And how much were you receiving from the state as a housing subsidy?
I only got $1,000 3 times.
Did you use that housing subsidy to give any portion of that money to the defendants?
I used a portion of it. They had requested $150 a month.
Starting when?
Starting October 2020, they started requesting $100 a month in order to pay for PG&E, gas, electricity.
And did you pay it?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, this is the lawsuit. There was a fire in the house, and it is your claim that $6,000 worth of your property was destroyed. You had no renter's insurance.
Correct.
And it is your claim that the defendants used receipts that you had given them to put into insurance, and they were reimbursed by insurance for your claims, but never gave you any money.
Correct.
That's what the case is about. My first question is, how do you know they were reimbursed for your claims?
I had submitted any and all receipts for the insurance company. In September of 2022, I had broken up with their son in December of 2022. So a couple month time span, I knew that they were moving into their house about 2 weeks after the fact that I had broken up with their son. So after they had moved into their house, after everything was refurnished and rebuilt, that's when I knew that they had gotten paid out.
Well, I'm just asking you, do you have any information from the insurance company that part of the claim, such their bills that were in your name, that part of the claim was actually paid to the defendants?
I had a Google Doc form that the Dennisons had sent me a little bit ago, and it was just them stating that this is how much they think that I deserve from the fire. I believe deserve is the correct word.
Maybe I could take a look at that.
And then I also have all the receipts and everything that I had submitted to the Dennisons.
I may look at that too, but I would like to see the first document that you discussed.
There was actually 2 documents that they had sent me.
I'd like to take a look at it. What's this truck money?
That was on a separate case, Your Honor.
What do you mean it was on a separate case?
I had filed with small claims court 2 separate cases against the Dennisons, one against Mr. and Mrs. Dennison, one against their son, Bryson Dennison.
What's the truck money is my question.
I had bought in him a truck, and then we had totaled the vehicle, and he still had owed me money on it, but I allowed him to get a different truck with the reimbursement from the insurance.
What happened with that case of the $3,300?
It still hasn't got paid to me yet.
What?
It still has not got paid.
Have you gone to court with it?
No, not yet.
Are you scheduled to go to court?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
On the 29th of this month.
And that case is not against the Dennisons, that's against their son.
Yes, ma'am.
That's you?
Yeah.
Okay. This says this makes everything final and done with this payment. We're not talking about the truck. $2,803.17. That's what you said that her items were worth.
Correct.
Did you pay her that?
No, because she did not agree to that amount.
Just a second. But that's what you offered her. $2,803.17.
Correct.
Lillian Rogers claims her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Denniston, owe her money from an insurance claim after their home was destroyed in a fire.
What is this broken items, hole in the wall, being paid with washer and dryer that we didn't take out of the house? They were Rob's sisters and given to their son for use, value of at least, what is that?
That's regarding the second case, Your Honor. I was being
That has nothing to do. All I want to know is this whole document that you gave me has to do with a lot of other stuff.
Correct. Yes. I was the mediator between the 2 of them.
Okay, but the $2,800 was for the fire damage.
Correct.
For the receipt for the fire damage.
Correct.
And all of this other stuff has to do with the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well then, if you add $2,800 to the $3,300, the truck money, that's what you're suing for here.
No. No, ma'am. I ended up going ahead and printing out all the documents and all the receipts that I had produced to the Dennisons regarding the fire contents money, and I had added everything up. And then I also had their spreadsheet that they had submitted into their insurance company that has my name as well as everybody else in the household's name on it.
Okay. Was any of the property that you lost reimbursed to you by the state of California?
No, ma'am.
Nothing?
No.
What was the date of the fire?
October
1st.
2022. 21.
Well, in June, you ordered things online, and you had shipped to you a body oil moisturizer for $13. This happened in October. You think that they're going to reimburse you for that? It's not happening. I want you to get your act together. That's not happening.
So what we were told from the insurance adjusters was any and all receipts that we had, and I only had online receipts, unfortunately, due to the pandemic.
What?
I only had online receipts due to the pandemic.
What I'm telling you is...
So I was told to produce any and all receipts I had of everything that we had in the house, regardless if it was 2 toothpicks or...
Oh, well, that's not happening.
A mattress.
That's not happening. Not happening. There was a fire in the house, Miss Rogers.
Yeah.
The insurance company paid for the family to go to a hotel.
Yes,
Is that right? Did you contribute to that?
I paid my rent.
For how long?
I continued paying it until we left.
While you were in the hotel?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, she paid the $150.
How did you come up with the figure of $2,800?
It was in one of the insurance documents. It had listed in red on that form that she gave you, the depreciation of value. I had added a bunch of those items that she showed you on that first document that had Lily's name on it. It came to that amount minus the depreciation amount, and then that was the actual cash value is what they actually paid us.
May I see that in writing? It'll make my life a lot easier, and I don't have to go through
It's
this.
a huge document that I have on my email. Okay.
Did you share that document with her?
Did I share it? No.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at it. Where are you living now, Miss Rogers? Where are you living now?
I'm living technically in a barn right now, but it's a refurnished barn. And then to add clarity, I would like to mention that I said to add clarity, I would like to mention that as far as my knowledge is, the Denisons, they had replacement insurance, which means that the depreciation value didn't matter as long as I went and purchased the same item and then brought back receipts to the insurance company.
Well, that may be them, not you.
Oh, absolutely.
That may be them, not you. You're not an insured. You sound like a smart gal. You were living there. You were paying rent. There was no negligence that caused this fire, I would assume.
No, ma'am.
On October 29th, after the fire, you bought an iPhone Pro Max
Yes.
for $1,200.
Yes. So from my understanding of a house fire, the only thing that burnt down was the garage. However, there's fire damage, there's fireman damage, and then
I want to know what happened to your phone.
Is smoke
You
damage.
had your phone.
Yes. So as far as the smoke damage, any electronicals and
No. What happened after the fire on October 1st?
Yes.
You moved into a hotel.
Yes.
Did you use your phone between the time of the fire and October 21st? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Okay. Then you had no right to buy another phone for $1,200.
Yes, ma'am. So according to the insurance agency, as well as the firemen and the police department, anything electronical within the house, the stove, phones, computers, anything else.
Not happening for you.
Okay.
Not happening for you.
Okay.
I don't have to see it. I just made up the difference. Yeah, I've just made up the
I also have a list of items.
I went through enough of this to see where we're at.
And she did receive money from the state. My daughter, who's here in court, was a witness to her receiving gift cards from the state, from social services, to replace her items that were lost in the fire, such as clothing.
Did you receive any gift cards from the state?
No, ma'am.
I assume you were friends while she was living there?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me your first name.
Kaylee.
Tell me about what you know about receiving gift cards from the state.
So the social worker came over to the house and was giving her a gift card to, it was either like Kohl's or JCPenney's, one of the sorts, which Lily then...
Just a second. Did you see the amount of those gift cards?
I did not see the amount, no, ma'am.
Easy. What was the amount of the gift card?
I did not receive any gift
Was a
cards.
social worker at your house?
The only time she's ever visited the house, which was in, I believe, August of 2021. That's the only time she's ever been to the house.
When we were living in the Airbnb, the social worker did come after the fire had occurred. She came over and then...
Do you remember what the name of the social worker was?
I do not.
Sit down. Stand up. I get...
Lillian Rogers has accused her ex-boyfriend's parents, Jody and Robert Deniston, of owing her money from an insurance claim. Jody and Robert say they tried to pay Lillian, but she is being greedy.
Tell me your first name, please.
Bryson.
Bryson, did you, while you were still living with Miss Rogers in the hotel or thereafter, after the fire, did you discuss with her any subsidy that she received as a result of the fire from the state?
No.
When for the first time did you ever hear about these gift cards?
It was when the lawsuit was filed. She never told me about any of that.
She never did?
No.
And neither did your sister?
No.
Good, very good. Sit down. Thank you. Okay, just show me, would you, for a moment, what you're referring to with regard to the depreciation value of the items?
The depreciation value?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
and how you got to the $2,800, which I think is probably reasonable.
It's on that big file that's downloading.
If I may, Your Honor. So everything that I had in receipts right there is just everything that I had purchased online, not talking about anything that I've ever purchased from within the home for the Denistons, for myself, anything in store. Me and Kaylee Denison, we were quote unquote shopping buddies, and we'd go shopping every single week.
I don't care. All I'm telling you is I looked at one major charge. There were charges for $13 for hand moisturizer and toothpaste that go away.
Yes.
You know, you use them up, but you had no reason to go to Apple to buy a new phone for $1,200 in a service plan. The fact that an insurance company person indicated to you that if there was a problem and if there was smoke, you can replace electronics, doesn't mean they're going to pay for it. And until you can produce evidence for me, and there's nothing here, that you put in claims for $6,000 and they got $6,000, which you cannot establish in what you gave me. Do you understand? I get a little bit leery when bills are, bills are padded, especially when these people took you into their home, you lived there 2.5 years, you paid a nominal rent, you bought an awful lot of stuff, which means that you spent your housing, the $3,000 that you were supposed to spend in, and I don't know what other monies you were getting from the state because you had to get some money to live.
No, ma'am. I had aged out of foster care, and I was not eligible for any benefits outside of foster care besides the last 3 months of me turning 21. And by that point, I had to rebuy all of the items I've ever had because everything I've ever owned was in that house.
I know the feeling. I was just saying, I know the feeling. We lost everything in our home, too.
So that's where that $3,000 went to.
It's still downloading. What document I do have is her list, and I itemized what was hers, what was a gift, and what was not. And that's what has the totals on the bottom. No, I don't have that. It was like 2,000 pages long.
Could you explain to me, I'm just curious, why are there 4 items here for iPhones?
That's what she's claiming, that she had bought all those phones. That's a list that she had given me of items that she had receipts for.
There were 1, 2, 3, 4 phones
No,
on
ma'am.
this.
I only had turned in the receipts for Bryson Denison and I's phone. However, on our account, there was the other 2 phones within the home. It was still within the home.
Just a second.
So they got ruined.
Just a second. Are these items that you listed?
Those are the items with the receipts I helped produce to the Denisons, correct?
So these are items that you said you should be reimbursed for?
Not me personally, because I didn't buy 2 of the phones.
Which 2 did you buy?
I only bought the first 2.
The 2 expensive ones for $2,500?
Yes.
Goodbye. $2,800, which is what they offered you. That's what you're getting. Goodbye. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
I'm glad that I was awarded something. It is unfortunate because I did lose everything that I did have in the fire, but it's okay because we can always rebuild and renew and everything else in between.
I still felt like we didn't owe her anything because she didn't have a renter's policy and she wasn't on our homeowners, but I agree.
I was alone in the house with their son, and it was a pretty scary experience. Thank goodness that a couple of us were home, so not everything in the whole house was tarnished. They were able to keep a couple of their personal items, so that was really nice.
I'm a little hurt. I opened up my heart, my home, my family are just good nature, and to have this happen, it's heartbreaking.
They absolutely did help me out, and I do appreciate them for everything. Unfortunately, there's a backstory to everything, of course.
I'll still continue to help people. It's our good nature. It's what we do as human beings.
But there's her side, his side, his side, and the truth. And what's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong, and not giving me my portion is wrong.
She's just a greedy little brat. Entitled.
At the end of the day, if they're keeping my money, isn't they're trying to be greedy?
It seemed like the defendants were really cared for the plaintiff, allowed her to move into the house, had a good relationship, didn't even charge her any rent until they decided that they had adult children that should start contributing to the home, and they included her in with their own children in the responsibilities to pay a nominal amount of rent. So it's always tough in situations like that when we see plaintiffs such as this one suing people who you and I look at as their saviors. They gave you a warm place to sleep, they fed you, you had a roof over your head, you know, all of these things that they lost everything too in the fire. I don't think that they were unreasonable. She went with them to the Airbnbs and the hotels afterwards. They didn't leave her out on the street. So I couldn't imagine suing somebody after all of that unfolded.
No, it's probably had to do with a very bad breakup of the relationship that they had with the son. But I think the bottom line lesson is if you have things that are valuable and if you are a renter, and even though she was paying a nominal amount of money, it's still rent.
Sure.
That renter's insurance, especially if you have very little, is very inexpensive. And you should have it.
Yeah.
And young people don't think about that.
Until it's too late, usually.
Right. You've rented once.
Once. And even I, you know, I was ignorant to the fact that you should have renter's insurance. And I was lucky that nothing like this happened. But having now seen the different scenarios that can unfold, definitely in the future, I'll get renter's insurance anywhere I rent.
Smart.
Yeah.
Nidra Hunter is suing business owner Tamika Young for a party bus refund and punitive damages.
Court come to order. Hello, Judge. Case 3018, Hunter versus Young.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hunter, you were planning your wedding.
Yes.
And the wedding was planned for what date?
October 8th, 2022.
Miss Young, what's the name of your company?
Luxury Queen and Mr. Party Bus.
And where is it located?
It's in Detroit.
How long have you owned it?
Since 2017.
And it's a party bus company, then you must have party buses registered in the company name. We're going to check it. How many party buses do you have registered in the company name?
Well, actually...
No, not actually. That's a question that I have for you. How many party buses do you have registered in the company name?
None.
How many party buses do you have registered in your own name?
None.
So it's a fair statement that when you advertise that you're a party bus company, what you do is you subcontract that out.
Yes, ma'am.
You know where I'm going, right? Do you see any advertising under the name of that company? Because that's how the plaintiff got to the defendant.
I do. I see their Facebook page. In addition, they have a website.
May I see both, please?
Sure. Facebook page.
Okay, let me see. We have the best rates, limo service. Okay. Now, is this what is on their website as their party buses? Let's take a look.
So if you go about, when you go to book now, it gives you just these options, 4 options for vehicles, and then a place to leave your message. And that's it.
Got it. So what you did was, in anticipation of your wedding, you wanted a party bus to take about 30 guests.
Yes.
So that everybody was together.
Yes.
For photographs to a park, whatever it is, and get you to and from the venue to the party afterwards. And you looked on the internet and you found Miss Young's company.
Correct.
Your wedding was in October. On what date did you contact Miss Young?
It was in March.
Do you have any written contract or communication with her?
Text message.
May I see it, please? Who are you, by the way?
I'm the driver.
Are you related?
Yes.
How are you related?
I'm her nephew.
How old are you?
20.
Get to you in a minute.
I just found something interesting. So there's a video posted by the defendant on the work page on Facebook saying prom season is approaching with a video of a large white bus that looks like it would be about 25 to 30 people. And somebody in the comments inquired and said, interested, how much for 5 hours? And the defendant says in March of 22, this bus posted is no longer available. This one being she sends a video of a different bus, is 15 to 20 passengers for 5 hours is $11.50.
So in March
of 22.
Of 2022, she indicated that that party bus was no longer available.
Which looks larger than the one she suggested in the comments, saying the one that was originally posted about
Do you have a date in March?
Yeah, March 12th, 2022.
And it was the defendant saying to another party.
A different party.
Different party, that bus is no longer available.
But here's a different video of a different bus that seats 15 to 20.
Got it.
Lists the rate for that.
Okay, so, very good. Well, how come you told her the bus was available?
That bus particularly was available in March.
No. You told somebody else that the bus wasn't available on March 12th, within 24 hours. So in March, when you were dealing with her and her wedding, you already told somebody that you don't have access to that bus anymore. That's what you...
That particular bus, but Your Honor, I have different types of buses.
You know what? You don't have anything. Miss, you don't have anything. We established that.
I have access to it.
You don't have access to anything more than she has, more than I have.
I work with different companies. And
You are a subcontractor, and you make promises like you did to her, and then, because clearly, $950, she paid you.
Absolutely.
She paid you. And how many days before her wedding did you tell her that there was a problem with that bus? How many days before?
It was September 26th that I called and had a conversation with her. Would I have that information here that we had this conversation, that bus was no longer available because it was in an accident?
You know, I don't like you to think that you're really dealing with somebody that's stupid. You just told me that you have access to many different companies. So if you have access to many different companies and you've contracted for a 30-passenger bus that looks like that, use one of your other contacts. I wouldn't use your company ever. Because what it was is a bait and switch. You baited her with a 30-passenger bus that she needed.
No.
3 weeks before her wedding, you say, that bus, either you told her was in an accident. According to your answer, you said it was having mechanical difficulties. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Is that correct? Well,
mechanical accident, same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. It's not that, and you don't own the bus. It's not the same thing, and you don't own the bus.
I have access to it. I have access to it.
I'm going to tell you, madam, it's a bait and switch. Now you can stand up, because what happened was she sent you a smaller bus. You want a refund.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. Move over here. You have a chauffeur's license?
Yes.
Take it out. May I see it, please? Well, you didn't have a commercial driver's license in October of 2022.
I was trying to be.
I don't care what you were trying to be. Your commercial license wasn't issued until January of 2023. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm a school bus driver. I had to get that as for the drive. I had a chauffeur's license at the time when I was driving them.
You needed this to drive a commercial bus, and you didn't have it at the time that you were driving. Okay, so first you arrived late, right?
Yes, but that was because I had the wrong address.
Who gave you the address?
It was on the itinerary.
That she gave you?
Yes.
That's the information that she gave me.
Impossible.
I promise you.
Just a second. You live in the same community?
I live in Detroit, but Detroit has different counties,
Just a second.
cities. Yes.
Transportation is your business. What was the name of a hotel she was staying at?
I didn't even know it was a hotel that she
What was the name of the hotel?
I cannot remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
Holiday Inn.
Okay. Listen, I'd like to give you money for your aggravation, but you got married, right?
Yes.
You happy?
We are.
This your husband?
Yes.
Are you happy?
Yes.
Look happy. All she should say to you is, I'm sorry, because it was clearly, in my mind, a bait and switch. She baited you for a 30-passenger bus, which she did not have. She never told you she was subcontracting for that bus, did she?
No.
Of course not.
I explained.
Nidra Hunter claims business owner Tamika Young owes her a refund after bringing the wrong size party bus to her wedding.
Now, based upon the website, you would assume, and the photographs and the videos that are on Facebook, you would assume that your company provides buses that you own, not that you subcontract to other people. There's no question in my mind that's a bait and switch. That's what it was. And I doubt whether you ruined their wedding because they tried to make the best.
I tried to make the best of her wedding. I reached out to her. I called her. I let her know what bus I was switching her out to, which I have the video here.
Bait and switch.
I understand you said it's a bait and switch. I get to the bottom of it, but I did kind of accommodate her when the situation, I offered her a refund.
You offered her a refund. She paid you $950. What did you offer her?
$950.
You offered her $950?
Absolutely.
In cash?
Absolutely. The day when I switched her bus.
Just a second.
Then again, when we got there.
That's because that's not what I read. I read that you offered her something towards her next ride. You offered her the $950?
$950.
That's what she's going to get, $950.
That's what the contract was.
Just a second, did you?
And then when Antoine got there, and she wasn't happy with that bus, due to when I explained to her over the phone conversations that this 15 to 20 passengers, if it's tight, different.
You know, it's a hustle. What your website is a hustle. He is not a professional driver. He's a 20-year-old kid who couldn't even get to the right address. Who got there late. No, she didn't give you a wrong address to get to her wedding.
I asked her for her information, and she sent it to me.
And you bait and switched her with a large bus, and at the end of the day, it's not easy to. Yes, you did. $950, judgment for the plaintiff. That's it. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I work for different companies. I am like a booking agent. She said I'm subcontracting, but I work with people that have these buses.
I think it went well.
We do have buses that's no longer available because those are not available anymore.
She didn't give us the proper bus. It didn't hold our wedding party, so a lot of people couldn't show up.
They didn't accommodate because she had big people.
It was very sad and heartbreaking. My kids couldn't be there, my brother.
We was there, we gave the service, even though it wasn't that bus.
Everyone had a wonderful time.
And they had a wonderful time. They played, they had fun on the bus. They danced, they took pictures.
No, I mean, we made the best that we could out of the situation.
When I accommodated to give her a refund the day of the event, she didn't want it. She wanted the bus.
Never will work with them again.
You know, I think I have a personal, as much as a judicial, negative sense of business people like this woman who clearly has a business that she operates out of her kitchen because she doesn't have any transportation vehicles. She will get a client from a website, and then she'll call around and see what vehicles from other companies are available. And then she has a nephew, maybe a son, maybe another nephew, maybe a gotcha. So, and she'll get a driver, because he said that he drives a school bus.
Yes.
I don't know why somebody would let him drive a school bus when he's 19 years old.
Issue for another day.
But that's for another day. But you don't realize when you do that, somebody spends a year planning a special day.
Of course. The business plan is all messed up from the jump.
Yeah.
I think when you are offering what you call a top-tier service and you don't actually own or have control over any of the assets necessary to run that business, then you're waiting for trouble, because
you're waiting to disappoint people.
Exactly. It's all going to be a disappointment, but lucky for the defendant, she's never at fault because it's not her bus.
Yeah.
So she never, I couldn't get access, I couldn't this, I couldn't that. It's always a push-off. Yeah. And so for people like the plaintiff, make sure when you're interviewing companies that, number one, they own the assets that they're alleging, that they have full and complete control over those. So if they say there's a conflict, you know who to go after in that situation. So unfortunate, but the right thing happened.
Yeah, and she's married. And she says she's happy.
Case 2137, Weiss versus Light. All parties, please step forward.
Caitlin Weiss is suing her ex-boyfriend, Cody Light, for unpaid loans.
Ms. Weiss, the defendant was a boyfriend of yours for a period of time.
Correct.
And you allege a couple of loans. One from a year and a half ago, the balance of a $200 loan, he paid you back $100.
Yes.
Quite frankly, I'm not interested in what happened a year and a half ago.
Caitlin Weiss claims her ex-boyfriend, Cody Light, is refusing to pay back loans she gave him during their relationship.
Okay, in March of this year, you allege that you gave him money. He was still your boyfriend in March of this year, is that right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in March of this year, he had gotten a car. What kind of car did you get?
It was a Buick Regal.
What year?
A 2004, I believe.
Where did you get it from?
I got it from a private seller.
How much did you pay for it?
$850.
Needed fixing?
Yes.
And you didn't have money for parts?
I did for the first round of parts.
But you didn't for the second?
After the first ones failed, I did not.
And how much did you need for parts?
That I don't remember.
Who bought them?
Miss Weiss did.
Did you buy them on a credit card?
I believe so, yes.
And you have no idea what you paid for those parts?
I don't remember.
But that would be in March of 2022.
It would have been in April.
Did you pay for the parts by credit card?
Yes, I paid between Cash App transactions that were transferred to Mr. Light through Cash App, which I have present here.
I'd like to see proof of them. What do they total?
They totaled up to $920.
Does that sound about right, Mr. Lippy?
That's about right.
Okay. And tell me about the discussion that you had with her when she paid for these parts.
There was a discussion of how I was going to pay her back.
And what did you tell her?
I did agree at that time.
And then what happened?
There were then later discussions as we were still in a relationship and I was in financial troubles that she told me not to worry about it.
This $920 was a loan in April of 2022. That's what you say. It was in April, not March.
Correct.
And then you say at some point she forgave that loan.
Right.
Tell me when that happened.
Shortly after the car got back together, which would have been in May. I was financially struggling.
Well, you weren't living together at the time?
No, she would periodically come over and
yeah, but you weren't living together at the time. So how would she find out that you were in financial trouble?
I mean, we were at that state in our relationship where she knew basically my financials all the time.
When did the two of you break up?
I believe that was in June.
So shortly after you say she forgave the loan.
That is correct.
Did you ever forgive this $920 loan?
No, I did not. Brennan Black was there the day that I had confronted Cody at a car meet and had offered him a short little payment of $790 where Cody said he would do it in payments.
Just a minute. You broke up in June.
Correct.
He says that you had a conversation before that, sometime in May, where you knew he was in financial difficulty. Did you ever have that conversation with him?
No, that is incorrect. I do have statements here to prove it as well.
I'd like to see them. So then you said he owed you $970. He had been giving you some money?
Yes, he had been giving me
It says, so that puts you at $670, okay? That's what you wrote.
Correct. He had been giving me money periodically throughout the beginning of the car parts.
Okay, but it says, so that puts you at $670, okay?
Yes, there's more transactions on the Cash Apps as well.
Oh, after that?
Yes, correct. Sorry.
No, sir. What you say is I need time to catch up. There's no forgiving here unless you have some...
It was a verbal conversation.
Well, what's in writing...
Right.
What's in writing is you saying to her, I need some time to catch up. I can make payments to you. All of that is in writing. But the thing that you don't have in writing is where she forgave the loan. Is that right? Yeah. $920. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done here. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
It is what it is.
I think it was fair. Mr. Lake did owe me money, and he got what he deserved.
Yes, she lent me the money. But at the same time, she was helping me out in a relationship, and she knew I was struggling.
He said he was going to pay me back and never followed through even after that.
There were discussions about her telling me not to worry about it.
Not to trust so much.
I'm never going to do it again.
Oh, that's going to be a contract.
She was very prepared.
Oh, she was to the point, knew exactly what she needed.
And she had all of her evidence.
Yep.
All
just the way we like it.
All lined up. It's unfortunate when a loan becomes a gift and a gift then becomes a loan when the romance is over. These writings are always so helpful, and these text messages really are making my life much easier.
And one thing that I mention a lot is with Cash App or Venmo, always state if you're paying someone money, don't just send the money, put in the subject line. They have a subject line on those for a reason, for this car part, for this tow, for this XYZ, the other. So I always, when using Venmo or Cash App or something like that in an online transfer system, I'll send the money, and then in the transaction, you can put whatever you want in the memo line of Venmo. So housekeeping for me, I'll pay through that. Or other things, I list housekeeping for, and I put the date and the hours. So I at least have a record of who I'm paying electronically.
If you buy food,
or if I give someone money for dinner for half my meal, I say for my dinner on XYZ date.
And then you can get a printout.
Organized. Exactly.
And then you can, like a bank account?
Yep.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
It just keeps it organized. So I love it when litigants come in ready
Smart.
to go.
Well, that's good advice for people who use Venmo, to use the subject line.
Exactly. It makes our job easier.
Jennifer Anderton is suing her former friend, James Sorensen, for personal training.
Case 2125, Anderton versus Sorensen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Anderton, your case against the defendant is twofold. First, you claim a loan to him in the amount of $10,000. And while he doesn't deny that you gave him $10,000, it is his defense that this was not a loan, but an investment in a project that went south. It went south because somebody conned him, and thus you were conned as well. Somebody took off with the money. The second part of your lawsuit is that Mr. Sorensen is a trainer of some sort, a personal trainer, fitness trainer, and you retained him to put you on some sort of a regimen of both diet and exercise. And you paid him in advance. He wasn't forthcoming with all of the training sessions he was supposed to give you, became unavailable. You want a refund of some of that money. So the first thing I'm going to deal with in your lawsuit is the $10,000 exchange of money. If I find that that, in fact, was a loan or was fraudulently entered into as a result of being duped and being a dope, then I'm going to give you back the money. Then I don't have to get to the training because that's the limit of my jurisdiction. Do you understand?
I understand.
Okay, great. How did you meet him?
I met him on a dating site, actually.
When?
Early June 2021.
Did you date?
We befriended each other. And after our first meeting, that is when I had just come off of a ventilator of 10 days. I was a nurse, contracted COVID. He actually came to my home and said, I could really help you get back to where you were. I needed rehab.
Okay, so after the first meeting, you were not dating?
No.
Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
And that was in June of 2021?
Yes.
When did you, Mr. Sorensen, tell Ms. Anderton about this investment opportunity?
It was about a month into.
So 4 weeks later.
Right.
4 weeks later, you became close enough to discuss with her a business opportunity.
Yes.
And did you discuss this business opportunity with her in her home or over the phone?
In her home.
So I want you to tell me your version of exactly what you told her.
So I had a friend come to me, and
you had a friend whose name is?
His name is Scott.
Scott what?
I can't remember his last name.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
If it's true, then it didn't happen. If it's true that you can't remember his last name, it's because he doesn't exist.
Oh, he does exist.
Oh, sir, you didn't give all that money to somebody whose last name you don't know. I want you to understand that. Then you're looking at me and saying I must have stupid written on my forehead. You don't look like a stupid man.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you look like you could be a cunning man, but you don't look like a stupid man. So if Scott doesn't have a last name, he didn't exist. I want you to tell me that's in my brain. In my brain is if you can't come up with a first and last name of somebody that you gave thousands of dollars to, he didn't exist.
Okay, in your mind.
Keep going.
I'm not going to keep going and dig any holes. I'm just telling you what the facts are.
No, those aren't facts, sir. That's a fantasy. You know, you're not mentally challenged in any way, are you?
No.
I want to tell you, if I told my 9-year-old grandchild who asked me for $100 because she wanted to invest it with a friend, I would say, what's the friend's name? I don't know. See, I'm not giving you $100 to invest with somebody whose name you don't know, because I'm absolutely positive that if you said that to her, she would have said, well, what's this person's name? I want you to tell me now, Mr. Sorensen, what was the investment?
It was for Happy Pills.
It was for what?
Happy Pills.
Don't look at me.
Happy? Did you say Happy Pills?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about it. Tell me what you told her. You want to invest in Happy Pills. And
Yes.
what she'd say to you? She'd say to you, I'm a nurse, you know, so I'm an educated person. What's wrong with you? Okay, keep going. Keep going. I want to invest in Happy Pills.
Right.
Your friend Scott.
It was a friend of a friend. His name was Scott. Okay, and he introduced me to him and said that, hey, he went.
No, you mean Scott introduced you to somebody else?
No, my friend introduced me to Scott. I didn't know his last name, but we knew that he was in the industry.
Okay, so your friend introduced you to Scott.
Yes.
What's your friend's name?
His name is John. I promise.
Where does he live?
He lives in Salt Lake.
What's his telephone number?
I have no idea what his telephone number is.
Just a second, get out your phone and tell me what your friend's telephone number is. Everybody has their friend's number in their phone.
I don't know what his telephone number is.
Then you see why I don't believe you, sir? Do you understand why I'm having a problem with your story?
It's okay.
Do you understand why I'm having? So a friend whose number you don't have in your phone wanted to introduce you to somebody whose name you don't know to invest in Happy Pills. And this is what you told her? No, I'm asking you a question. Is this what you told her? I have a friend.
This is what I told her.
John, I have a friend, John, who knows a guy, Scott, who has this company that's going to make Happy Pills. I just want to know if that's what you're trying to tell me that you told this woman.
I am. It's okay.
Jennifer Anderton claims her former friend, James Sorensen, owes her for a fake $10,000 investment.
Okay, keep going.
You know what happy pills are?
I assume that they make you happy.
Right. Yeah, they are. It's Molly.
I assume that they make you happy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. And so he went around to festivals and he sold Molly there.
He sold what?
Molly.
Molly's.
MDMA. It's an illegal drug.
Oh, okay. So you told her you wanted her to make an investment with you with a big return on your money.
We talked about this for a long time.
Who did?
Me and...
You couldn't have talked about it for a long time, sir. You only knew her 4 weeks.
Okay.
You only knew her 4 weeks. Tell me about this $10,000. Did you take it out of a savings account? Do you have that from the bank?
Yeah.
I'd like to take a look at it. You want to tell me, Miss Anderson, the circumstances surrounding you transferring $10,000 to him?
He approached me saying that he needed a hard money loan for his business. He had an e-commerce business with supplements. His father and mother had given him the loans in the past, for the past 5 years, and they've gotten a good return. It was a for sure deal. He goes around and this is their festival project time. They make a lot of money doing this.
What does he do?
For supplements.
So he sells supplements?
Yes.
And it was his business? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Did he ever mention a guy, Scott, to you?
No.
It was his business?
Yes.
And he said that his parents had helped him out in the past, had invested with him in the past. So now I understand a little bit better. I see the withdrawal for $10,000. So tell me why he needed a hard money loan.
To buy the product to take to these festivals and...
Sell them.
Sell them, yes.
Okay.
So he needed it for product.
And when did he tell you that he was going to return this money?
Within a week or two. That it was a week or two of festivals. This was the busy season. He does this every year, and this is a for sure return. And if I did this much amount of money, $5,000, this is how much I'd get back. If I did $10,000, it would be a $15,000 return for me. And I'm like, wow, I could pay off my student loans. I could, yes, do a lot with that.
Okay, so to synthesize what you told me, he told you that this was an investment in his company.
A loan.
A loan, excuse me. A loan for his company for products so that he could go out, sell them for the next several weeks,
Correct.
And you would get a return of 15% on your money.
50%. So a 10...
50? 50? Sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the company.
The Venmo transfer of $2,000 was to him in June?
June 16th of 21.
And a withdrawal of $8,000.
Same day.
Okay. Now, where did you put that money, sir?
I gave it to Scott.
Okay. Okay. I want to tell you, Mr. Sorensen, you have parents who gave you money?
They have in the
Just a
past,
second.
not as you
just
would
say, you
say.
have parents
Not in,
that gave you money.
They did not ever give me money for my business, ever.
What did they give you money for?
Christmas? They never financed for me for anything in my life. Okay. Nothing.
Oh, then you lied
about. I don't know why she would make up that story that my parents gave me.
No. She's not making up the story. You're making up the story.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong about this, I actually don't feel badly, sir, because then you're the dope that got duped.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
Then, just a second. That if you gave money to John, to Scott, then you're the dope that got duped because they were your friends. That's all I have to tell you.
I understand.
That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair.
I think that was a fair judgment.
We both understood what we were getting into.
No, not until after like 3 or 4 months, and I think he brought that up in fear of me going to the police.
Time to part ways, and definitely learning curves on both ends.
Don't do silly things. It was definitely a learning curve.
I'm glad that things happened the way they did.
Something I'll never do again. I'd be a little more careful with your money and your investments, and don't trust everybody. I'm too trusting.
I just find it very funny that his entire business venture, was selling illegal drugs at festivals. That was the only plan. That was the whole venture. There was no...
That's really what he said.
Whether it was Scott, whether it was John, whether it was
But that
Joe.
was the business plan. That's Happy Pills. Thank you, by the way, for explaining what that was to me.
I didn't understand at first either, but when he said Molly at festivals, it's like, I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I'm pretty sure that's not a business.
Right.
So I'm glad she got her money back.
Me too. Me too. It was ridiculous.
There was a couple dopes getting duped in that situation.
You're absolutely
Robert Ritter is suing homeowners Jeff McNally and Angela Klingenberg for property damage.
Ritter versus McNally Klingenberg.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Ritter, you own a piece of property,
That is correct, Your Honor.
and it's a residential piece of property,
That is correct.
and you use it as a business.
That is correct.
I would assume that this is your tenant.
That is correct.
Perfect. Could you stand up next to Mr. Ritter? What is your last name?
Mason?
Mason. These are your neighbors across the street?
Yes.
I live side by side.
So you're side by side, not across the street?
I live across the street.
Now, there came a time, Miss Mason, that you heard something that was unusual. Can you describe what you saw?
I was startled by the sound of a big thud and my dog freaking out and ran to the window. And so I jumped up, ran to the window where the dog as well was running toward, and looked out the window and seen the truck that had just hit the air conditioning unit.
Can you describe the truck?
A white truck pickup.
Had you seen that car before?
Yes, in the driveway next door to me.
So in his driveway?
Yes.
Did you see who was driving the truck?
I did.
Was it Mr. McNally?
It was not.
Who was it?
The young lady beside him, friend
Miss
across the street.
Klingenberg?
Yes.
When you looked outside, what did you see the truck do next?
As I looked out the window and made eye contact, I seen...
With her?
Yes, I seen Jeff at the back end of the truck, right by the AC unit, kind of backing her off a little bit, kind of gave her a raised hand.
So he was out there as well?
Yes, positioned behind the truck.
What did you do?
Well, I jumped up and then I ran and actually grabbed my phone to take pictures because I did not want to be responsible for what had just happened to the air conditioning unit. As I could tell, it had been moved and hit.
Do you have those photographs?
I did send those to Bob. He has pictures of those.
Kevin? Yes. Want to get them?
I immediately texted Bob as well, letting him know.
So that day, the 20th of August, you went, took photographs of the truck?
Yes, ma'am, and the yard and the air conditioning unit.
Okay. Mr. McNally,
Yes, Your Honor.
where had you been camping?
We were camping in a place called McCall, Idaho.
Aside from you and Miss Klingenberg, who were there?
My son.
See how easy this is? It's going to get easier. Do you understand? Okay. Now, is this your girlfriend?
Yes.
Okay. Now we got that clear. This is your girlfriend. You and your girlfriend were camping. Your son was with you. And what you were doing that day was you were trying to unload the truck with the camping gear, correct?
Correct.
Is the camping gear heavy?
Yes.
So somebody was driving the truck and somebody was schlepping the stuff out of the truck to put it away, right?
Correct.
Now, Mr. McNally, you don't want me to believe that either you or stand up, or this guy were just twiddling your thumbs and you backed up the truck so that you left Miss Klingenberg to empty the truck, right? You don't want me to believe that.
No.
Because that wouldn't be true, and that would be foolish, and that would make you certainly unchivalrous, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So when you were first confronted with this, you said, oh, my girlfriend wasn't driving, right?
Right.
So let's get it straight now, because that's what you wrote here in your answer. Oh, my girlfriend wasn't driving, my son was driving. That's not true. I don't know why you would choose to say my son was driving, not my girlfriend, unless she doesn't have a driver's license, because otherwise there'd be no difference whether your truck was being driven by you or your son or your girlfriend. Do you understand? No difference. Your truck being driven with you around hit his air conditioning unit. So what difference does it make? You have a driver's license?
I do not.
There you go. Perfect.
I was not driving, Your Honor.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were. You were driving, and he says you were. You see, and he says you, just a second. You didn't see his face just now. He says you were. Now, how did I know you didn't have a driver's license? Do you have a driver's license?
Yes.
Yes. But how did I know you didn't? Where do you think I got that from? I got that from common sense, because Mr. McNally doesn't look like a stupid man. And there would be really no difference if he drove the car, you drove the car, the son drove the car, his car caused damage. But in order to perhaps have insurance cover it, if he had insurance on the truck, do you?
My insurance had actually lapsed.
What? Okay, so it really didn't make any difference. If you had no insurance, you could have said she was driving. But didn't think that far. Okay, so that's why we're here. We're here because you let an unlicensed driver drive your truck that was uninsured that you took on a camping trip. Is this coming together for me?
It's close.
So now we got that straight, right? The next thing we have to take care of are the damages. I see that the outer part of this air conditioning unit was definitely hit. Now the outside is merely a cover. So I need some evidence that this damage that he caused while she was driving damaged the mechanism of the air conditioner because you replaced the unit and you want him to be responsible for the unit, right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
I have to see a photograph because I don't have this photograph of the inside of this. I just have the photograph of the cover.
I do not have the inside, but I do have from 2 HVAC companies that did go out to service it. One that did the replacement, the other that came out second opinion, as Jeff had asked us to do, which we did.
Okay, I'd like to see it.
This will be the second, and this is the actual invoice for payment.
Oh, this is the second opinion. This says, second opinion call, 4-year-old Goodman air conditioning unit has been backed into. The unit has permanent damage to the condenser coil. Well, that's the unit itself. That's just not the lipstick on it. That's the guts of it. This says immediate repair, replace condenser coil and damaged panels, 3961.
Correct.
Replacing the unit instead may be an option to consider. And to do the whole job, what did he want, $5,000?
The other side, $3,450 to replace the identical unit.
Okay, and to repair
it was less money to replace it
than to repair.
Correct.
Okay. Do you understand that now?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Your
So,
Honor.
based upon your request, he got a second opinion. Second opinion was for more money to repair. He chose the lesser of the two, which is to replace the unit. The ball is in your court, sir.
Garrett was actually driving.
I don't believe it. You've had some time to reprocess it all. You would have had the boy, that's what you raised them for, strong boys. You wouldn't have said, well, you just sit in the car.
Claims homeowners Jeff McNally and Angela Klingenberg owe for property damage after hitting his air conditioner.
Your car, uninsured as it was, driven by your girlfriend, damaged his property. Why don't you think that you're responsible for it?
We don't believe we hit it.
The damage is on your truck, sir. There's a picture of your truck here. You want to see it? Or you don't have to see it. You'd be better off just saying, you know what? I don't have the money. You'd be better off just saying, because we started out wrong, you and I, Mr. McNally. And the wrong started off was claimed his son was driving, even though Regina clearly saw his girlfriend. Okay, so that was a fib here.
Actually, Your Honor, if I may, there was just one front seat, a bent seat, and she was sitting in the middle, and Garrett was actually driving.
I don't believe it, sir. You've had some time to reprocess it all. That's not true. She was driving because if you were unloading the truck, you would have had the boy. That's what you raised them for, strong boys. You wouldn't have said, well, you just sit in the car while my girlfriend unloads it. You wouldn't have said that. Put your hand down. Take the hair out of your eyes so I can see your eyes. Perfect. Thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,800. It's not a good idea, Mr. McNally, to show your son that it's the right thing to do, not to tell the truth. That's a very good lesson that parents should teach their children right from the get-go. And accepting responsibility for what was clearly an accident. I mean, she didn't mean to back into his air conditioner, right?
Right.
It happened. It was an accident. That's why they don't call it an on purpose. It was an accident. But once you have an accident, you have to accept responsibility. That's what you want to teach him. And if he lifts his hair, he'll be able to see and be able to hear better. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
We were all sitting in the front of the bench seat, so I was in the middle, and I think when she initially came out, she saw me sitting in the truck, but maybe she assumed I was sitting in the driver's seat, but I wasn't.
Nope, my vision was great that day. It did make me jump, and my dog was freaking out, so I definitely knew something hit the house.
I told him that my son and I were emptying firewood and that he may have hit his AC unit.
It's just sad, you know, that they had to do that and that the young man had to be involved when he really didn't do it.
That case was a great demonstration of how being well prepared and doing the right thing can make the justice system work for you in the right way. He had all of his evidence laid out exactly how he needed to present it to you, and he had the damage evidence, he had the photographs, and he did the right thing. He didn't try and get a whole new unit for the $5,000. He said, I'll get the 2 estimates if that's what you want me to do. So it just shows how being prepared and having all your ducks in a row can really benefit you when you come into a court system.
But my problem was telling the lie after you've sworn to tell the truth in front of his son, because those things remain embedded in your children. You want to be a good parent. The first thing you have to teach your children is to be honest. And if he sees that his father and the father's girlfriend are dishonest, that will become part of his fabric. That's a mistake. So,
I agree.
But I think you are correct that it was a good lesson in preparing a case that made it easier to try.
2185, Francis versus Morris. All parties, please step forward.
Danielle and Michael Francis are suing their former tenant, Anthony Morris, for property damage and loss of income.
Miss Francis?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this?
It's my husband.
Well, this has to do with the ownership of a home. Do you both own the home, or just did you inherit the home?
It doesn't have to do with ownership of the home. It's a case about property damage.
I understand that.
Yes, ma'am.
But somebody owns the home. Who owns
do.
the home is
I
the
do.
question. Not your husband.
Correct.
Have a seat. Let's not confuse it. Ms. Francis, you had a brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Whose name was?
Julius.
How old was he?
My brother was 38.
And your brother owned a home?
Yes.
How long did your brother own this home?
He just purchased a home in 2017.
Do you know how much he paid for it?
About $123,000.
Was there a mortgage on the house?
Yes, ma'am.
How much is left on the mortgage?
$110,000 now.
Do you know how much the house is worth?
Yes, ma'am.
How
It's
much?
worth $213,000 now.
So almost double.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, your brother passed away when?
June of 2020.
From what?
Pancreatic cancer.
So it was relatively fast.
Yes, it was. He was actually diagnosed in 2019. So in early 2019, I became his caregiver, taking him back and forth to the doctor and chemo visits, as well as my husband.
Okay. Now, Mr. Morris,
Yes, ma'am.
you had been a roommate of Julius.
That is correct.
For how long?
I moved into the house on October 19th, 2019.
And you paid rent.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when Julius got sick, according to what I read, you never moved into the house with Julius. You just took him to where he needed to be. Is that correct? You lived with your husband.
Yes, ma'am.
You lived with your husband, and you came as needed to take your brother to medical appointments, et cetera. You lived in the house with him.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Partially.
What's not partially?
At the end of my brother's illness, I moved in with him because
How much before?
I would say March of 2020.
So for a couple of months, towards the end, you moved in, but during the course of the year, you lived with your husband and you lived in the house with
Yes,
Julius. And when you were living in the house with Julius, did you give any assistance to him in any way?
Yes, ma'am. I took him to the hospital several times. I cooked for him, and I pretty much did the chores and ran the errands for him.
Did you know him before you moved into the house?
I did not.
After Julius passed away, you inherited the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he have a will?
Yes, ma'am.
And the will specifically gave you the house?
Yes, ma'am.
And you and the defendant determined that he would remain a tenant in June of 2020. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
There came a time when you moved out, Mr. Morris.
Yes, that's correct.
And what month and year did you move out?
June 1st, I believe, 2022. Correct.
And what was the reason that you moved out?
I moved out because the rent had went up for a second time.
What was it when you were living with Julius?
$650.
And then when Miss Francis inherited the house, did she modify the rent?
She did.
In what month?
I'm not specifically, I can't answer that question.
What did she raise the rent to?
Approximately $1,200.
Was that the first increase?
That was correct.
How long did that increase stay in place?
That had to be for a year. That was the term of that lease.
And what happened after the year?
She raised the rent again.
To what?
Well, that's when I didn't accept that lease.
What did she ask?
$1575.
She wanted $1575.
Yes, ma'am.
And you determined that that was too much rent for you.
I did.
So you gave notice you were leaving.
I did.
Danielle and Michael Francis claim their former tenant, Anthony Morris, damaged their property while renting from them.
When did you give notice you were leaving?
30 days before June 1st.
Okay. And when was the lease up?
June 1st, it would expire.
Now, after your brother passed away and you inherited the house, did you maintain the same rent that he was paying to your brother?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So when did you raise his rent and to what amount?
I raised the rent in November.
Okay.
Of 2021.
To what?
To $14.95.
That was the first time you raised his rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you knew what his rent was when he was living with your brother?
Correct.
And how much was his rent when he was living with your brother?
It was $625.
So, in effect, you increased his rent a little over 200%.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Can I explain the reason to that?
No, it's irrelevant what the reason was.
Okay.
He was paying rent of $625. You raised it to $1,500. Now, at the end of that term, were you going to raise his rent again?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
To what?
It was going to be an $80 increase to $1,575.
Now, during that 2-month period that you lived in the house, you had no issue with regard to the way Mr. Morris maintained the house while you were living there with your brother. And that fact is buttressed by the fact that you maintained him as a tenant, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you saw the way he maintained the house, and having seen that, you continued him as a tenant.
Correct.
And you raised his rent substantially, and he paid that rent.
Correct.
And he paid that rent sufficiently so that you were prepared to re-rent him the house, but you just wanted a little more money.
Correct.
Correct. Now he moves out on June 1st of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And now you say that he caused almost $5,000 worth of damage. And because he had damage, you lost income because you couldn't re-rent the house.
Correct.
You moved out in June of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new tenant in the house.
Yes, ma'am, I do now.
And how much rent is she paying?
She is paying $2,200 a month.
And when did her lease start?
Her lease started in September.
So your premises was not rented for 2 months.
Correct.
And when it was rented, from the 2-year period of time between your brother's death and your re-renting the house, the rent went from $625 to $2,200.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't sound like you're losing any money.
Well, there's
just a second.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like you're losing any money. So I'm not interested in the loss of income that you had. You had no loss of income. Anybody who lives in a house can't rent from June 1st. House has to be painted, normal wear and tear. You may have to redo carpeting. That's the normal wear and tear. Had to be done because that's what you do when you want to get $2,200 rent from somebody for a house. You have to paint it up. You have to freshen it up. You have to do all of those things. So what I want to see from you are photographs of what, other than cleaning out the house, which Mr. Morris acknowledges for whatever reason there was stuff left in the house. Correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
That belonged to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you didn't clean out.
I did not.
Now, you left on June 1st, and I'm telling her that she's going to show me what she considers $5,000 worth of damage to the house. I want to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
You agree that you left some stuff in the house. She probably has a bill for cleaning out some of that stuff. That she's entitled to. Now I want you to show me what damage you are ascribing to him from the house.
Okay. I have the pictures here, Your Honor.
Okie dokie.
Also, can I present in evidence what the room that the defendant rented out, what it looked like prior to the damages?
No, I don't see any damages. I see mess.
There's pictures in there, Your Honor.
I'm looking.
The damages, the carpet was damaged very badly. He messed up my mattress in my second bedroom. The doors was damaged. He actually changed the lock on the second bedroom door and the master room bedroom door without my
You see all this
knowledge.
stuff, sir? Shh,
Yes,
just a
ma'am.
sec. This is all your junk, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you should have a substantial bill for cleaning and getting rid of this.
Yes.
I'd like to see it. So you paid $760 to clean out the house?
Yes,
Make it move in clean?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you're entitled to, Ms. Francis. $760. You can't leave a place like that.
Also, Your Honor, I had other damages as well. My microwave was broken.
I don't know who broke that, and you don't know.
I know it was working when he was there.
May have been working, may have been not working.
Everything was in top-notch condition, from appliances to flooring, when Mr. Morris was at the house. So he broke my microwave.
Fix it.
I have fixed it, and I'm asking for the cost of a replacement for a new one.
No, wait.
Why not?
Because I'm not convinced, madam, that somebody who, according to you, helped you with your brother, was there and supportive for the last year of his life. He certainly left a mess, which you're not supposed to do, sir.
I understand.
You're not supposed to leave a mess. And this is clearly a mess. And there's no question in my mind that you left this mess because she was quadrupling your rent. But to her, this is a business. And she's not living there with her husband. This has now become a business investment. Her investment increased in value. It was really Julius's investment, but it increased in real estate value. And instead of seeing $600 a month, which probably doesn't cover the taxes and mortgage, she now has a profit because she's now getting $2,200 a month from somebody, and that covers, of course, her mortgage and whatever taxes they are. You were annoyed? You're still not allowed to leave a place like this. $760, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Kind of upsetting because the defendant really trashed my brother's house, given that we considered him like family.
I was like family with them. I took care of the brother for a long period of time. I wouldn't have left the house like that.
And for him to turn around and do this and cause all those damages and then get off scot-free, it's heartbreaking.
Number one, there were no damages.
You know what? Nothing good ever comes to someone who does people like this.
Money does change people, and so you have to be careful.
Be careful who you rent to.
So I just did some research on the home while we were out there, and I found some interesting information just based on some of the plaintiff's claims. So I did find that the house was sold to the brother in 2017 for $123,000. But the plaintiff listed the home for rent for the first time July 22nd for $2,300 listed for rent when she became the owner.
And he moved out in June, beginning of June.
So her claim for lost income doesn't really make sense because she had it listed on Zillow at least. I'm not sure it could have been listed before then. That's just when Zillow picked up on it. I'm not sure how their algorithms work, but she was unable to get the $2,300 presumably because she reduced it to $2,200 in August of 2022. And then it was removed later in August at that $2,200 mark, presumably whoever, the new tenant that she now has.
So she had no real lost income.
Exactly. She had the month of maybe July, but if you have a tenant moving out June 1st, you give yourself 2 weeks notice as a landlord anyway to make the necessary painting, carpet
and sometimes it takes a little bit.
Exactly, and you don't find a tenant right away. So based on that, I wouldn't have given her any lost
income for the He left the house a mess.
He did. He left boxes. He acknowledged it.
He left the place a mess. He left food in the refrigerator, and there's no way in one day, which he said, he was going to move all that stuff out. He was annoyed. Then you can't leave stuff that way. So she got her cleanup bill.
Yeah, all she was entitled to.
Fair, madam. You can't sell. Thank you. Mr. Scruggs, you have brothers and sisters?
No, ma'am.
Were your father and your mother? Who predeceased whom?
My mother died when I was 17 years old, and my father died in 2019 after a long-time illness, and he had his tools at my property.
You and the defendant were married for 10 years.
Correct.
You separated in what year?
2016.
And when you left, she stayed in the house.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Sometime prior to 2016, according to you, you borrowed some tools of your father's.
That's correct. I actually
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the tools that you borrowed from your father were left in the marital home 2016, 17, 18. Your father died in 2019. You were divorced in 2000.
We were divorced in 2019 was the final judgment.
And then things sort of got away from you. So now we're in 2023, and you want your father's tools back or money for them, according to you, $10,000 worth.
Yes, ma'am.
Ridiculous. Let's start out with ridiculous. Where were you in 2019?
2019 is when my father died, and shortly after he died, I was taking care of his affairs, and we still had an ongoing court case that consisted of our minor children at the time, and I was under advisement of my attorney.
Don't tell me what your attorney advised you. It's hearsay. You did nothing with regard to the tools. In what year did you borrow the tools from your father?
It was 2013. I brought the tools over to my storage shed, and...
Mr. Scruggs, you gotta let it go. You haven't had the tools in 7 years. You've been out of the house since 2016? 2016.
What, Your Honor?
And you've been, look at you, and you've been living. Who is this?
This is my current wife.
So, you got divorced, you remarried. When did you remarry?
I got remarried in 2018.
Well, so you found time to get married, right? Just a second. That's a yes or a no.
Yes,
you found time to get married.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a big wedding?
No, ma'am.
You had a small wedding. Do you have any children?
Yes, ma'am.
With your current wife?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
One child.
How old?
She's 5.
So you managed to have a baby. Well, I'm suggesting to you, sir, how many different jobs did you have since 2016?
I've had 2 different employers.
Since 2016, so you also looked for another job and found another job. So let's see. You got married, you had a child, you changed jobs, but all of a sudden in 2023, the tools are important. Now, how many children did you and the defendant have?
2 children.
How old are they?
I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old.
You pay child support?
No, ma'am.
How come?
Because one of the children lives with me full-time.
For how long?
She's lived with me full-time for approximately 3 years.
But when you and the defendant separated, she was living with her mother.
Only for a short amount of time.
How long?
Probably about a year. And I paid support during that time.
And the other child?
Is 45-55 split.
So that's why you don't pay child support?
Correct.
And do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. And at some point, so what do you want to say and why?
Just that the reason we were not able to do anything about the tools was that she had an order of protection.
The tools are stupid.
Was that she had an order of protection against him.
The tools are stupid. Orders of protection don't disqualify you from coming to small claims court.
They said that it wasn't able to.
Oh, no, that's what's a they? Oz? You were allowed to come for small claims court, file a petition and say, these tools belong to me. He didn't do it during the divorce. He didn't do it before your wedding. He didn't do it after your wedding. He didn't do it before your daughter was born. He didn't do it till after your daughter was born. She's now 5 years old. It's 10 years after the tools were moved from your father's house into the marital home. That would be a fair statement. 10 years. You said 2013. We're now in 2023.
Correct. And, Your Honor, I do have here where my dad filed a police report where he was trying to recover the tools.
Well, unfortunately...
And the defendant here obviously lied to this officer here and told them that I didn't retrieve...
So what? I want you to forget $10,000, sir. It's not happening for you. Put a period. The only thing that I'm going to consider is she did, in fact, sell the tools. That she acknowledges. Now, she can't sell something that doesn't belong to her. And in what year did you sell the tools?
I sold the tools. Our divorce was signed in 2018. They had gotten married. He'd quit paying a mortgage, so I had to find a way to pay.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't you just tell me, in what year did you sell the tools?
It was on and off between August and October of 2018.
So you sold them piecemeal?
Yes, ma'am.
And you remember that, so you must have put an ad someplace.
I put an ad on Craigslist because I needed to pay the mortgage. And I didn't only sell his tools, I sold jewelry that was mine.
I get it, but you sold it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have an inventory about... First of all, they weren't his tools, they were his father's tools. But I've asked him whether or not he was an only child. He is an only child, so he would stand to inherit these tools unless there was another child that he doesn't know about because his mother predeceased his father. So...
Your Honor, I do have an inventory from that my father
don't
did.
care. Understand this. I don't care.
Andrew Scruggs, claims his ex-wife, Lori Watzinger, wrongfully sold his father's tools and kept the money.
You let it lapse too long. Your father died 4 years ago. You and the defendant are separated for 6 years. The tools were there for 10 years. Courts don't care. We use a whole bunch of things, statute of limitations, we use latches, we use all kinds of terms when people don't act quickly to assert their rights to something. Because we don't want to be bothered with what happened 10 years ago and 12 years ago with this kind of nonsense. We do it with certain things that are important. Crimes are important. So sometimes we let statute of limitations get blurry, but not this. But you sold the tools. You had no right to sell the tools. So he's entitled to the money that you got for selling the tools. Now, according to you, you sold all the tools for how much?
$1,000.
And how do you know it was 1,000? Because you say you sold it over a period of time.
Because I have the paperwork where I had submitted so many payments to the mortgage because I sold them just to pay the mortgage and to feed the kids.
Listen, I'm going to get out my violin, madam. I asked you a specific question.
Yes, ma'am.
My specific question is, how do you know it was $1,000 if you sold them over a 3 or 4 month period? And if the answer to that is I don't know, or I pulled out the number from my behind, then that's an answer. But not that I sold the tools to put food on the table for my children. That's not an answer. How do you know it was $1,000?
Because I had put that money into the bank. I paid the mortgage with it.
Your Honor, you're exactly right. The defendant here is a liar and a manipulator.
Just a second.
And she will tell you whatever she thinks that you want to hear.
Well, that's true, sir. And I don't believe she sold the tools for $1,000, but I don't know that.
Because
and you wait, just a second.
Just
a second.
I
What?
guarantee you.
Oh,
I guarantee she made $13,000, $14,000.
No, that's possible, sir. Prove it. Prove. Just a second. It's your burden of proof. You have to prove to me that she sold them for $13,000. And even then, you're late in bringing this suit. But you can't prove that.
Well, because she is a manipulator is why this ex parte order and
listen
all this,
to me, I don't care. You're not following me. Courts, not me personally, courts, I am the court. We don't care because what you did was wait too long to assert a claim. You waited too long. According to you, you had COVID and the pandemic came in between and, you know, having another child and getting married to somebody else. All those were reasons you had personal issues why you didn't assert your rights in a timely fashion. So we're not going back to try to recreate something that you can't recreate. And neither can she, actually, because you don't have to keep track of something that happened 3-4 years ago.
Well, even the agreed,
we're done. You have to understand.
Well, even our agreed judgment that she signed, I've texted her not 3 months ago trying to retrieve items.
Just a second. You have a judgment of divorce that says in the judgment of divorce she is to return the tools to you.
No.
Okay.
The tools are nothing in that judgment.
Nothing. Okay. You sold them for $1,000?
Yes, ma'am.
You can't sell somebody else's property. And that's all that he can prove is what you say you sold them for. And I'm not sure that that's what you sold them for. But he waited too long. And the only thing that I can establish at this point is that you sold somebody else's tools for $1,000. That's it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
The defendant, she obviously is a liar and manipulator, and she got a lot more than even the $10,000, and these were what I considered family heirlooms.
No, actually, no. I've got the documents for that.
Even after my father died, I looked at her and said, you know, we need to just fix this, and I came to her and said, you know.
Because he can't let me go.
If it's a matter of money, let me give you the money for the tools, and she still was selling the tools to, we think, her best friend.
Because they don't want me happy.
I'm sure glad that it's over, and hopefully we can coexist and take care of our son that we have together.
I'd like to be friends. I mean, it's for the children, anything to make the children happy.
You know what's more fascinating to me than anything else, and I have to when we leave today, I'm going to go back and look up the doctrine of latches.
It was a brief footnote, I think, in one of our case books.
Right, because we're talking 60 years ago when I went to law school. And I seem to remember you had both a statute of limitations, which was a formalized statute for certain causes of action, and you had to bring them within a certain period of time. That, I'm sure they taught you with law school. But I seem to remember, Sarah, There was a doctrine of laches which discusses why you're supposed to bring an action in a timely fashion.
More of a common sense argument as opposed to a
preservation of
statute.
evidence, because people do away with it. And this is a perfect example.
I think they call it ripeness now, but same concept.
Maybe.
More of a way for judges like yourself to be able to use common sense in cases like this and say, there's no evidence that's going to be preserved 10 years later. You had all these opportunities. Common sense tells me, therefore, it's not ripe. And I think it's a good doctrine because although there might not be a set statute for this particular cause of action, it doesn't mean that evidence just appears out of nowhere that you're going to be able to use.
That you don't preserve.
Exactly.
That you don't preserve it. And certainly he made a whole lifetime for himself in 10 years. Divorced, remarried, had a child, had changed jobs, changed careers.
A lot can happen in 10 years.
Yeah, but what's not going to happen is you getting the tools back.
Yeah.
Case 21.
Patricia Franchini and her husband Giovanni Nunez are suing their neighbor, Scott Elam, for the cost of a baby macaw bird.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
Hello, Kevin.
Case 2194, Franchini Nunez versus Ellen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Nunez?
Yes.
Your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
You and Mr. Elam?
Elam, Your Honor.
Elam are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have backyards that are joined, separated only by a fence.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of fence?
It looks plastic. I'm not sure.
Who has a picture of the fence? And you each have, as it would happen, dogs, same breed.
No, ma'am.
What do you have?
I have a Shetland sheepdog and a Dutch shepherd, ma'am.
And what do you have?
I have shepherd mixes.
How many dogs?
2, Your Honor.
And you have 2?
Yes, ma'am.
This is what the case is about. This is the fence. It's not a chain link fence. It's either a wooden or a plastic fence. And you can see that underneath this fence, there's a board here where I assume there's a hole because the dogs dig holes to get to each other. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Case is about an incident that occurred. You've been neighbors for a while, and you have had this dog digging also for a while. Also correct?
Yes, ma'am. The defendants.
Okay. This incident happened on the 16th of December, 2022.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me what happened?
I got up that morning to let my dogs out.
Both?
One dog. Okay, so the day started out, me and my husband woke up. My husband had to go get a tire fixed, so he took my smallest dog, my Shetland sheepdog, with him. I remained home with my 2 children.
Slowly. Okay.
Sorry.
How old are your kids?
They are 6 and 7, ma'am.
Okay.
I remained home with my children because they were ill, and I had an appointment with them later on that day. My husband went to go fix the tire at 8 a.m. I got up in the morning to let my dog out.
Got up in the morning to let your dog out?
Yes.
The shepherd mix?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I let her out, and then she came back in, and I was cleaning, and my 2 children were in my master suite with my macaw, Penelope.
Okay. That's what the case about. This case is about a macaw.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
cost of a macaw.
Yes.
Which is a bird.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
My kids were in the master suite. I opened the door. I'm out there cleaning. I let my dog out of my...
And the dog came back.
Sliding door. She came back. Well, then she stayed by the door. Now, none of my windows have curtains, so I can...
Just a second. But she stayed by the door, but she was inside?
She came back inside. I shut the door. This was 20 minutes went by. She's by the door. She's crying. I told her we would play later. I assumed she had to go to the restroom again, and I let her out again. She stood on the step, but she didn't go further than that, and she was just kind of staring out. From the left side of the house is where the defendant's dog, Bella, charged in my home. And then when I tried to grab her...
When you say his dog, Bella,
yes,
came into the side and ran into the house, that doesn't... Somehow, if the dog, Bella, came out and your dog was on the step, it would seem to me would stop on the step at first to sniff, play with your dog if your dog is sitting outside. I mean, I have dogs. Would go over to that dog first, not run into your house.
You would think that, ma'am, but she's been in our house 3 times before this because I had to return her to the defendant on 3 separate occasions. And she didn't do that day. When she came in the backyard on the 3 other instances, I remember the very first time someone from that household came to my door, and I knew the dog was in my backyard, but I didn't open my door. I left her back there. I figured they'd come. They did. And I said, hold on a second. I put my kids, I put my Sheltie in the room with my bird, and I shut the door.
Are we talking about the same date, December?
We're talking about other days that I brought.
Okay, let's not go on tributaries.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your dog's name?
Lucy.
Lucy. So the dog just went straight into your house. And what did Lucy do?
Lucy charged after her and tried to attack her.
Okay, so the dog has been in your house before. Have there been incidents with the two dogs?
No, ma'am. The defendant's dog is submissive to my dog. So the only time I brought the dog in my home was when I shut all the doors to all my bedrooms. Someone from the defendant's home came, I opened up the front door, brought her in, and she went straight out because there was nowhere else for her to go.
Okay, so it's your dog that is Lucy is the more aggressive dog.
Lucy's never been aggressive with her. I believe that Lucy was aggressive with her that day because of the way she came in the house.
When you say Lucy was aggressive, what did she do?
She started growling at her, and she started to...
In the house?
Yes.
Now they're in the house. Put a period there. We have the two dogs in your house.
Yes.
And they are growling at each other. So that's not a happy picture because they're big dogs.
Yes.
Now let's get to the bird. You purchased a macaw.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a photograph of what they look like?
Yes.
When did you purchase the macaw?
I purchased her with payments over time. I completed the purchase at the end of September 30th.
This is the macaw.
Yes, ma'am. That's my
A parrot.
Yes, ma'am.
In December, how old was she?
She was going to be 8 months.
And how much did you pay for her?
I paid $4,320.08 for Penelope.
Okay, can I see the bill?
Absolutely, ma'am. Her birth certificate along
She's
with
beautiful.
All of the...
Pretty bird.
Thank you, ma'am.
Patricia Franchini claims her neighbor, Scott Ellum, owes for the cost of a baby macaw bird killed by Scott's dog.
Tell me what got you interested in the macaw.
Earlier this year, full disclosure, ma'am, ended up in the hospital very sick for 2 weeks, and I was going through a lot, and I started volunteering at the bird store down by my home, and I really liked the Hans macaw because my grandma had one when she was younger.
Slowly.
Yes, ma'am. And so I spent a lot of time bonding with the birds there, and my husband and I thought it would be good and therapeutic for me, given what I had been going through.
Okay, now the two dogs are in your house, sort of fighting with each other.
They did not fight, ma'am. I did not allow them to.
Growling.
Yes, ma'am.
Growling at each other. And tell me what happened with Bella and the macaw.
I tried to calm Lucy down, and my master door was open. Everything was happening so fast. I know I'm describing it slowly, but it was quick. She bolted in my master's suite where my kids were.
Lucy?
No, Bella.
Bella.
Bella did. I heard my kids screaming, "Bella is killing Penelope." And
that's the bird?
Yes. And I tried to get to Bella. I couldn't. My dog was standing in between us. And while I was with the two dogs, then my son thought, oh, I'm going to go get her. And that's when Bella kind of snapped at him and she scratched him. And so then I couldn't get her. I couldn't. She literally was like chewing her up and like dropping her and like biting her again, you know? And it wasn't until my Dutch Shepherd bit her on the nose that she finally let her go. And I swooped and I grabbed her. I booked it to my pantry in my kitchen with my kids. And Lucy stayed in front of the door. And I have a door on it. And I just stayed in there. And I called my husband and I was screaming on the phone. He got home maybe, I don't know how long. It probably really only was like 5 or 10 minutes, but it felt like forever. She was like
and where was
in my
Bella
arms.
During this time?
Bella was around the pantry with the bird in her mouth. And then I took the bird from Bella and then I put her to the cage. And then Lucy just stayed by the parrot. And then I opened the door and talked to the kids. They were all hysterical and I was trying to understand what she was saying.
Where was Bella?
Bella was in the kitchen with a parrot.
And how did Bella get back to the defendant?
I walked her over.
How did you do that?
Kind of like how a mother pup grabs her by the neck. I grabbed her by the neck and I walked her over.
Okay, your dog killed their bird in their house. And?
Your Honor, the hole that allowed Bella to get into their backyard was primarily dug by their dog over the course of many, many months.
And?
I continued to repair my side of the fence. Their dog continued to dig the hole, destroyed wood that I had put there. The dog got through. In that story, it's sad, but that's not the story that he gave to my wife when he came pounding on my door.
Well, you can't tell me what he said to your wife, sir.
Okay, that's fair, Your Honor. I can tell you what he said to me. I called him.
You can tell me what he said to you.
Instantly?
Just you have to understand, he wasn't home when your dog got into the house. He came home at the end of the episode. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Okay. Understanding that, you can tell me your version of what he said to you.
What they both said to me. I've had conversations with both of them since this has happened.
Okay.
The story has changed 2 or 3 times. First, it was she was doing something in the backyard and Bella just came charging in and basically knocked her out of the way, got inside. The first story was, I assumed the entire time that he was home, because when he was talking to me over the phone.
I don't care what you assumed. He wasn't home when it started. Your problem, sir, is, first of all, you were aware of the hole. I don't care who dug it. You were aware of it. And it's not the first time that the dog has gone onto their property. Has their dog got onto your property?
No, because I fixed my side of it. I take care
so
of
the answer is no.
Correct.
Who do you live in your house with?
My wife and my children.
How old are your children?
I have a 1-year-old. I have a 7-year-old.
Let us say it's their fault that the hole existed that allowed your dog to get out. But you were aware of it because it had happened before that they had to bring your dog back. That a fair statement?
That's fair, yes.
Okay. Let us assume that it was your dog that was responsible for the hole. And their dog, despite the fact that yours was a better digger, you know, having dogs and having a fence, they both dig at the same place. They may not have fixed their side, but they both dig at the same place, trying to get to each other. Whose fault do you think it would be if their dog created the major part of the hole, got into your yard, and bit your 1-year-old? Whose fault would that be?
I think it would be equally our faults.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah.
Really?
For digging, for not taking care of your property, absolutely.
Really? I actually find that answer sort of bizarre.
I would take responsibility if my child got hurt due to something that I didn't take care of. Absolutely, I would.
Well, you may feel guilty about it, but you would certainly want them to pay all of your child's medical bills.
No, I would not.
Well, then you're a better person than the law is, sir, because your dog was outside of your control, clearly, because it got into their house. It was something that you were aware was a possibility, no matter who dug the hole, so you were aware because it had happened before, and your dog caused damage. And the damage your dog caused, and I'm putting the emotional distress, these 2 young children and the plaintiff, seeing your dog kill this bird that they had been paying off so much per month for a very long time. Putting aside that, they paid $4,300 for this property that your dog destroyed. And that's your fault. You're responsible for that. So if, because of this problem, and your dog has a problem, and their dog has not come onto your property, but your dog comes onto their property, then you have to say, you know what? I'm not letting my dog go out unsupervised because it has created trouble in the past. May have been their fault because they didn't fill in the hole as quickly or as carefully as you did. But you knew that that happened, and you're responsible for the damage. It would be no different than if the dog ran inside, and as she was trying to get the dog bit her, and she had to have surgery, and she had to have a plastic surgeon deal with reconstruction. Who do you think would be responsible for that? That would be you. And just because it's a poor little bird that happened to be the victim of this doesn't make you any less responsible. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,300. We're finished.
Court is adjourned.
One of the most interesting things about that case is I don't think that the defendant's dog, Bella, was a quote-unquote aggressive dog. But I didn't get a hint that the other dog was even aggressive. Even by the fact that the husband was able to walk her back by the scruff of the neck. If that was an aggressive dog, they would just turn right around and give you a nice little snap. So that says to me that although the dog didn't obviously do it on purpose, what are you going to do? But you're responsible as a defendant. You let your dog out. It's a act that's happened more than once. You were on notice.
Dog is out of your control. You're responsible. That's the bottom line.
Case 2202, Young versus Buchanan. All parties, please come forward.
Essie Young is suing her granddaughter's father, Keith Buchanan, for an unpaid loan she gave him for a car.
Miss Young, the defendant is married to your daughter?
No.
He is the father of your grandchild?
Yes.
Do he and your daughter live together?
No.
Where does your daughter live?
In Maple Shade.
Were they ever married?
No.
They have one child?
Yes.
Who's 12?
Yes.
Did you live together with Miss Young's daughter?
Well, at one point, she lived with me in Maple Shade.
How long ago?
This was 2010, 2011.
You mean when your daughter was a baby?
Yes.
How long have you had custody of your granddaughter?
11 years. My daughter never stayed with him.
I don't know that. He says she did.
Yeah, but she did.
claims her granddaughter's father, Keith Buchanan, refuses to pay back a loan she gave him for a car.
This is a very simple case, because I don't have to get into the history of why you have custody of your granddaughter.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan, according to you, asked you for a loan to buy a car.
Yes.
When was that?
Before he got it, he was calling every day.
Did you maintain a relationship with him?
Yes and no.
Would he visit his daughter?
No.
Ever?
Once in a blue moon.
Okay.
I usually have to take my granddaughter to see him.
Okay. It was sort of odd to me if he was never married to your daughter, so they didn't have a formalized relationship. They don't live together now. Why would you loan him? I know that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you loan him money?
My granddaughter.
Except you're a very nice person.
My granddaughter asked me to. She said, Grandma, would you please help my dad? I told her I really don't want to. And she said, could you please do it for me?
Oh, different story.
Yes. And then I said, okay.
Okay. So you discussed with your daughter during one of these visits that you needed money to buy a car?
No, never did.
You never did?
No.
Who is this person?
That's my wife.
Does she work?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes.
Well, why would you ask your daughter's grandmother, who takes care of her, who's always taken care of her? You don't, neither does her mother. Why would you not ask your wife's family? You both work. Take out a loan. Why would you go to her and ask her for money?
But it was a situation that happened and I lost my previous car. I contacted the SC, I talked to SC.
No, I'm asking you why you would ask her. What would prompt you to call her? Doesn't she have parents?
Yes, you do. I did that, and at the time they couldn't help.
So you went to her parents first?
I went to her family first. They said, sorry, they can't help at the time. So Mrs. Young was my last resource, which I didn't want to use, but at the time I had to use it because I had no other choice. I had to hurry up and get a vehicle.
Well, why didn't you take out a loan?
Actually, I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
Because my credit's not all that great. I tried to take out loans. I tried to go.
Does your wife have a car?
Yes, she has a car.
Okay, why don't you use her car?
She worked. I work an hour and a half away from home, and she worked too, and we worked around the same time.
How much money did you borrow from her?
$2,000.
How much did you give back?
$912.
$912. Show me.
On page 4, May 5th, 2022, she got $912.
From what?
From my taxes. And we agreed on once I filed my taxes, I would give her $2,000 for my taxes. She got $912 from them, that same taxes, because I owed backup child support. So she got on top of my regular payment for child support plus $912.
What? Is there something wrong with your mind?
No.
Did you just say to me, am I crazy? Did he say he owed back child support?
Yes.
And so she got that money that he owed her for child support, for taking care of his daughter, and he wrote that off of the loan. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Oh, my God. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Well, not ever. I should take that back. It's the dumbest thing I've heard today. If you owed her back child support, how much did you owe her?
I only owed her $900.
In back child support?
Yes.
Okay.
That I fully forgot.
Just a second. You owed her that money. In addition to owing her that money, you owed her $2,000. Do you understand that? So you owed her $900 plus $2,000. Are you not following me? Am I getting something wrong here?
I'm with you.
Are you following that? That's either a yes or a no.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, I'm going to repeat it again. What you said was they took money out of your taxes for back child support, $900. So that means you paid her $900 of the $2,000. That's what your argument is.
Yes.
Am I getting that?
Yes.
You already owed her the $900.
I had no awareness that I owed her $900. When I found out that $900 got taken out the taxes, I had no tax coming back. I was like, look, you got $900. You're going to have to give me time. And that's when it went south.
Oh, you got $900 that I owed you anyway. Now I need more time. Oh, my God. How is your granddaughter in school? She do okay?
Yes, she
does
well.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Either his math skills or his moral skills are somehow lacking.
It's the moral.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
So initially, I may have been a little lost. It took me some time to get there. But I thought that what the defendant was saying was that he was expecting $2,000 on his tax returns. So he told plaintiff, when I get it, I'll repay you the $2,000. And then in his mind, when the $900 left the account, he didn't know that that was not going to be there for the back child support. So he only had, the $900 and change left to give her. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. He thought that it would be the full $2,000. Come to find out, he thinks that the back child support is what fulfills his
loan
obligation, which wasn't even the full amount, not even half. And all to someone that has been raising your child for 12 years.
He's probably worse at math than I am.
Hunter Pelletier is suing his former friend, Alexandria Allen, for a washer and dryer.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2043, Pelletier versus Allen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This young lady is a friend of yours.
A former friend, correct.
How friend?
I met her from another mutual friend that I had, and we just formed a relationship together, just a friendship.
Are you married?
I'm not, I'm single.
Any kids?
No.
And what about the defendant?
She does have 2 kids, and she is married.
Currently?
Yes, currently married.
Are you also friendly with her husband?
Yeah, just friends. We were, yeah, before all this took place.
So that all of you were friends?
Yes, at one point, yes.
Case is relatively simple. Miss Allen's washer and dryer stopped working.
Correct.
You had done some odds and ends things for her in the past.
Yes, worked on her car and stuff.
And did you find or did she find the used washer and dryer?
She asked me for recommendations, and she found it on the selling app for used items.
So you told her where she might look for it?
Correct.
And she found it on an app online?
Correct.
Okay.
No, actually...
Look at me.
Okay. He made the recommendation to me.
Did you go on the app yourself?
No, I did not.
So you never saw the washer and dryer?
Well,
is that what you're... Just a second. So what you're saying, I just want to be clear. So I said, if you didn't go on the site, then you never saw the washer and dryer.
May I speak now?
Either you did go on the site and see it, or I didn't go on the site. I didn't see it.
He sent the picture of them to me, just a screenshot. That's all I got.
Okay. How old are you?
32.
You have 2 children?
Yes.
Did the screenshot show you where they came from?
I have a photo of them, and it doesn't say anything.
So is what you're telling me you didn't know where they came from?
Well, there is a name of the site. Would you like to know that?
I want to know if you knew it.
Yes, I know.
All right. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. You knew the site where the photo came from. So let's say you are correct, and I don't know. You said you needed a washer and dryer. You say he found the washer and dryer on a site, sent a photo to you and said, is this what you're looking for?
Correct.
Right? And on that screenshot was the site.
Right.
So you had at least access to the same site that he did.
That's correct.
And did the site give you the name of the person or persons to contact with regard to the washer dryer?
There was no one's name, just a phone number.
Did you call a phone number?
I didn't call them.
Who called them?
Mr. Pelletier.
Now, Mr. Pelletier didn't call them unless you said they looked fine.
Well, I did say they looked fine.
Well, what else did you say?
Based on the picture, they looked...
Just a second. Just answer my question.
Okay.
Because what happened here is really relatively simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether you're a simple person, but it's relatively simple. You had a friend. You told him I needed a washer and dryer. Mine broke down. He said, this is a great site. According to you, I'll look up, and he looked up the washer and dryer, and you did nothing. You, who needed the washer and dryer, you must work very hard. How many jobs do you have?
I have a couple of jobs. My children are a big job, for one. And 2, I am a full-time university student, so I am busy.
So you should be able to get a washer and dryer by yourself. You farmed that job out to him.
I did because he volunteered to help.
Doesn't matter. He didn't volunteer to help unless you told him I need help. I mean, as what it is, are you using him? I'm not sure.
I wouldn't.
I'm not sure. What do you do for him?
I watched his cats. When he went out on a vacation with his grandmother, and I took care of his cats free of charge because, well,
how long?
I didn't expect him to be gone that long either. It was over a week, and I had to buy the cats food.
So, just a second. So you watched his cats?
Yes.
And is what you believed that him taking care of getting this washing machine payment for taking care of the cats?
Well, not just that. There's other things that happened while he was installing the washer and dryer.
I don't care about things that... What I'm asking you is I'm trying to figure out what kind of person says to a friend, I need a washer and dryer. He says, as a friend, I'll see if I can help you. You have time. You also go on the computer and figure it out. Being a full-time student is nice. That's what you chose. Somehow, you also support yourself and your 2 children. I don't even want to go into how that's done. However, you said, go get the washer and dryer. And he went, how long?
It's 50 miles from my house, an hour and 45 minutes.
Each way to pick up the washer and dryer that you authorized him to get. You said, go get it. It was $1,800.
Correct. And she offered $200 tip for the delivery of that.
For you?
Mm-hmm, correct. Okay. And I have texts of
That's
that.
reasonable because you spent 3.5 hours in the car. Now, do they live on the first floor?
The 3rd floor.
3rd floor. Is it a walk up?
Yeah, it's stairway up to the 3rd floor.
So somebody had to go up and take the old washer dryer out. So, Miss Allen, was that you or your husband?
Mr. Pelletier also removes them.
No, you can move your mouth. It's okay if you move.
No,
it's okay if you move your mouth.
Hunter Pelletier claims his former friend, Alexandria Allen, is responsible for the cost of a washer and dryer.
The plaintiff walked up the 3 flights of steps, carried each of the washer and dryers downstairs, took the washer and dryers from downstairs up the 3 flights, got them installed, and you didn't like them. They were a different color.
And they're busted up. They don't even work properly.
Okay. Miss Allen, when did this happen? In what month?
January 7th of 2022.
You have receipts for different washers and dryers that you purchased since January of 2022?
I do not have the receipts, no.
That means that you didn't purchase them.
Well, I never paid him for them.
No. That means that you never purchased new ones. That means that you're still using the ones he bought.
Correct. But
right.
It did not work well.
Just, you bought used washer and dryer. You've been using them January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 8 months, and you're still using them. And you neither paid for them, nor did you pay him for delivery. And I don't know what your excuse is.
I feel like
I don't care what you feel like. I don't care what you feel like. You made a contract with him to go and pick up washers and dryers, disconnect yours, take them out of your house, install these, lay out the money to pay for these, use them for 8 months, and not pay them because you weren't happy with them.
I feel like I was being very kind because I didn't decide to sue him for his cat or the damages he did to the cows.
I'm telling you, you should stay in school. How much did you pay for the washer and dryer?
$1,800, and I took the money out of the bank. She had asked me because her ATM has a low limit, so I went into the branch of my own bank.
That's what you're suing for $1,800?
Yeah, I wanted to get the $200 if possible, but at this point, I just want the money for the machines.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. $1,800.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
It damaged the walls of my apartment. They banged it up.
She saw right through everything, the damages, she said.
The machines were overpriced.
None of that happened from me. I'm not a professional installer.
I don't think he cared because it wasn't his money.
At the time, they were less than 6 months old from original purchase date, so they were still worth the money that they were asking.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to be friends anymore.
I don't need friends like that, no.
So this case touched a little upon agency, like an agent-principal relationship, where here the plaintiff was actively acting as her agent by going and picking up these washing machines for her. They had had communications beforehand about this is what they look like, this is what they cost, I'll do it for you for $200. Is this what you want to do? She says yes. You don't get to just then back out of it because you don't like the color. You knew what they looked like. You knew they were used. There was no bait and switch. I was almost waiting for an explanation, for a bait and switch, he put the nice ones in his house and then gave me not so nice ones. But there was nothing. There was very rarely do we see no excuse for.
And she's using them.
Yeah, still for almost
they're all
a
banged
year.
up. They were all banged up. Well, that's what happens when you buy something that's used. When you buy something over the internet, which is really what she did, she could have just as easily said to him, before you load them in the truck, please take pictures of them so that I see them.
Yes, she could have.
So she could have. Did nothing.
That's not his fault.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
Also allowed him to take the other stuff down, put the other stuff up, and then say, well, they were banged up.
$200 to move 4 heavy machines is a low price as far as I'm concerned.
Not a friend anymore.
Yeah.
For rent, a security deposit, and stolen property.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2066, Michelonius versus Robertson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Robertson, how long had you been living in your apartment prior to renting a room to the plaintiff?
I believe it was about 3 years.
You had been living there by yourself?
No, I had roommates previously.
When did the plaintiff move in?
I believe that it was January 1st of 2017.
2017?
It may have been 2018. It was the first, I forget.
It was 2018.
That's correct.
How long did he live there with you?
He lived there with me until September of 2021.
So far, that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So now let me understand this lawsuit. Mr. Robertson lived in his apartment for 3 years. You answered an ad for a room. You lived with him in his home as a tenant from January 2018 until September 2021.
Correct.
At that time, there was a dispute. We will get into that in a moment. There was a dispute. During part of that time, Mr. Michelonius, you did not pay rent. Is that correct? During COVID?
That's correct.
For what period of time did you not pay rent?
Well, I had...
Give me how many months did not pay rent?
There was...
You don't have to think out loud. How many months between January of 2018 and September 2021 did you not pay rent? Give me a number. That's a number.
4 months. Some months I paid partial rent. But there were 4 months that I did not pay any rent.
4 months, no rent. And how many months did you pay partial rent?
I believe that would have been 4 or 3.
So for 7 months, you did not pay your rent. Paying partial rent is not rent. Now, my question to you, Mr. Robertson, is this is an apartment that you rent.
Yes.
Or rented.
Mm-hmm.
From January 2018 until September 2021, was your rent current?
My portion of the rent was current.
What do you mean your portion?
My portion that I was responsible for.
No, it's your apartment. You're responsible for the whole thing, Mr. Robertson.
Yes.
Okay? You're responsible for the whole rent. And if what you chose to do was to say to your landlord, listen, I have a roommate, I'm just paying my portion of the rent, my roommate isn't paying his,
right,
then your rent wasn't paid.
Yes.
And I assume that your rent wasn't paid for the same period of time that he didn't pay you his portion of the rent.
Yes.
Was it for any period of time greater than that? Greater than the 4 months or the 7 months that he didn't pay rent?
I went through my bank statements and they went back until, I believe, July of 2020. And that's as far back as my bank app lets me go.
Okay.
There were more months than that I received partial or no rent payments for.
From him?
From him.
I'm asking you about your landlord. If you didn't pay your landlord, you telling me your landlord didn't file an eviction against you?
There were several months that he did pay his full rent, and so that would have meant that the entire rent for that period.
Well, I know, but if the rent was not paid, did your landlord ever serve you an eviction notice?
No, there was an eviction moratorium in Alameda County at that point for unpaid rents due to COVID.
Gotcha. So that would it be a fair statement that you both took advantage of that? He took advantage of it, and so did you.
I wouldn't say that it was me trying to take advantage. I would just say it was my inability to cover the entire rent.
Your portion as well as his?
My portion was always covered.
Your portion was covered?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Michelonius, when did you move from month and year?
It was September of 2021.
And when did you leave there?
I believe it was the 3rd or 4th week of August of 2021.
So you both left the place at about the same time?
I left involuntarily, but yes.
Well, you left involuntarily, because that's what this case is about. Okay, so now I have the structure of it. Do you understand the structure of it?
I understand.
You understand the structure of it? I just want to make sure that people out there watching understand the structure of it. So you were the rentor, and you had an argument. It resulted in a protective order for somehow some genius put him out of his own apartment because of these protective. You weren't in the hospital for anything, were you, as a result of an assault? No. You have no medical records there of being treated for any injury.
It was a harassment.
Just a minute. Do you know my husband harasses me every day? Every day. I couldn't think of evicting him. I mean, you do other things. So the answer is, you were never treated for any illness. You were never treated for anxiety at a hospital as a result of this harassment. As a result of your allegations, let us say of harassment, Mr. Robertson was ejected from his own home, from which you had not been paying rent, your portion that you were supposed to pay contractually with him for months because of COVID. Am I getting this story right so far? I'm not finished yet, but so far, is there anything that I said was wrong?
I think that's pretty close. I mean,
okay, so that's pretty close. And now what you are seeking here is, should I say basically, and I hate that word, basically, but it's appropriate in this case. So all of those haters out there, she used basically, I don't care. It's appropriate here.
Mark Michelonis claims his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, owes for rent, a security deposit, and stolen property. Christopher is countersuing, claiming Mark owes him for rent.
Now, what you're claiming in your lawsuit is that after a review of the copy of the underlying lease, you found that you were paying the vast majority of the rent.
Correct.
And so you want a return of that money.
That's correct.
Under what theory in the law?
Well, basically that he defrauded.
No, now you can't use a basically.
Okay.
I want to know what theory is there in the law that says if I own a building and I lease to someone the whole building for $10,000, and then I find somebody who is prepared to pay me, and I have the first 2 floors of the building. Third floor is vacant. I find somebody who's willing to pay me $9,000 a month just for the top floor. That makes me a good business person. But unless there is something that prohibits him from doing that...
There is, Your Honor.
Show me.
There's a clause in the lease.
No, just show me.
Okay.
I'm a lawyer. I can read a lease.
So the sublease that I agreed to with him incorporates the entirety of this master
Just a second.
lease.
I'd just like to see it, please, sir. I'd just like to see it. I assume you've highlighted what you want me to read.
Correct.
Okay. So what you're pointing to is that the landlord, his landlord, was not advised that you were subletting.
No.
Well, that's why signed by every tenant.
So that was one of the things, because if you look at the second lease, the one that was altered by Christopher to remove those areas so I wouldn't be aware, I wouldn't be able to enforce them, was because he moved his boyfriend in without getting my consent. And so it says in there that he needs written consent. I understand that that doesn't apply to me, but he thought it did. And so he used whiteout on the other lease that I gave to you to obfuscate those terms.
I don't know how to put this to you, sir, other than to say, let me backtrack. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a web developer.
You work for yourself or for a company?
I do. I'm an independent contractor.
How long have you been doing that?
2 years.
Prior to that, what were you doing?
I was a system administrator.
For whom?
For a small company in San Francisco.
How long did you work for them?
6 years.
So for 2 years, you were an independent web developer, and you're still an independent web developer.
Correct.
And that's how you support yourself.
Right.
So you work out of your home.
Right.
And you've been working out of your home, you said, the last 2 years since 2020. This is 2022 or 19.
Right.
What do you mean, right?
So it was it would have been.
When you moved in 2018, were you an independent contractor?
No, I was going to school.
You were going to school?
Right.
For what?
When I went to,
Just a second, for what?
For web technologies. It was a program for web development technology.
Did you go in person?
Yes. It was an intensive.
For how long?
It was 3 months. It was 8 hours a day.
Okay, so you went to school for 3 months.
Right.
During what period of time?
January 2018 to end of March 2018.
Okay, and at that time you were living with the plaintiff?
Correct.
Okay, so you needed a room for that 3-month period. And after that time, you supported yourself by being your own boss, by developing websites.
It took me a while to find a job, but yes.
What do you mean it took you time to find a job?
The interview process to get work. I was interviewing. It was very hard to break into that industry.
And so what did you do?
So I started taking on independent work.
So you never actually got a job outside of the independent work that you did?
That's correct.
So you support yourself by doing web development out of your home?
Yes.
So you used the home that you were living in, that room that you were renting, for not only your personal business, but you operated a place of business out of your residence.
Okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Yes.
Yes. I just want you to see how ridiculous you are. You want $10,000 because you overpaid what you consider your fair share of the rent. That's not going to happen. You come here, you didn't pay rent for at least 7 months because of COVID. You were working according to you. You were a web developer, still are. It's 2022 because you have no other job other than being a web developer. You stopped paying rent. You moved out after he did, correct?
Well,
did you pay?
I'd like to correct
in the
something.
month that you lived there, when you had put him out of his house because you were
they were moving out. I did not put him out of the house.
I thought that was a protective order.
It was, but they were, and I put in the protective order that they were living with me, but they were moving, and so.
No. They were living with you. You were living with them.
Well, yeah, we were living together.
No. You were living with the defendant. He wasn't living with you. You were renting a place, although you weren't paying rent from him, and the underlying landlord wasn't getting his money, all of his money, because he wasn't getting your money. And what's coming to me is that somebody got stiffed with rent, and that would be the landlord who rented you your place where you were living, because you didn't pay him the whole thing. You didn't pay him the whole thing. And now you want me, you're asking me, to award you $10,000 for overpayment of rent.
Your Honor, could I clarify something? The times when I didn't pay rent, I was not working. It was during COVID, so the first couple months of the COVID lockdown, I lost all of my contracts, so I didn't have any money. And so I was using the COVID. There was a COVID process where you could, basically say that.
There's no basically in there. Only I used it once.
So I did not have the money to pay rent. I was not just making money and not paying rent. I would not do that. I was broke. All of my contracts dried up because nobody had any money. I was working for small.
So what are you
companies.
suing him for now? The government was very good to you. This is a very interesting America. It's a rent forgiveness, it's a rent moratorium. That doesn't mean the state where you live. What state do you live in?
California.
California. That doesn't mean the owner of this premises was given some sort of a break that they didn't have to pay for utilities, taxes, mortgage on the building, because it's used as a business. As far as I know, there wasn't a moratorium on that, but there was a moratorium on two seemingly able-bodied people to say to the landlord, I can't pay my rent. To add insult to injury, you think that I'm going to give you $10,000 because he charged you more than whatever the third or 40% of your occupancy of the apartment, and he shouldn't have? That's not going to happen, sir. So forget it.
Mark Michelonis has accused his former roommate, Christopher Robertson, of overcharging for rent and keeping his property. Christopher is countersuing Mark for unpaid rent.
Now, you gave him a security deposit. That is part of your lawsuit. Correct. So I want you to forget the overpayment of rent because it is ridiculous.
Okay.
So now let's go to the security deposit part of your complaint. Did he give you a security deposit?
He did, Your Honor.
Now, he didn't pay rent because of this moratorium
Yes.
on rent. Did you get your security deposit back from the landlord?
I did.
How much?
I believe I got the total amount for the entire apartment, which was approximately $2,000.
And how much did Mr. Michelonis give you as a security deposit?
He gave me $1,250 for the security deposit plus a $300 pet deposit.
Sometimes the pet deposit is refundable. Did you get the pet deposit back?
I don't recall specifically if I got that back from the landlord.
But you did get back your entire security deposit, which included his $1,250.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Let's hold that in abeyance for a moment, because now I'm going to go to your counterclaim.
Sure.
I think that's all I have to deal with. Oh, and property taken without permission. Did you get that property back? There was some...
I did not.
What property was it?
There was a stone Buddha carving. There was some dishes, some glasses.
Oh, give me a break. Do you have a stone Buddha carving?
I have the stone Buddha carving. I have a small statuette, a rooster that is his, and a small metal
Great. Would you
spoon set.
pack those up?
Yes.
Do you live close to each other?
I haven't been able to because of our mutual restraining orders.
Fine. Do you know where your local precinct is?
Yes.
Where is it located?
I believe that the closest one would be downtown for me, downtown Oakland.
Okay. You'll find out before you leave today. In 5 days, drop it off at the local precinct.
Absolutely.
Let him know when, and he can go pick up his Buddha.
Yes, I don't want
Great.
bad in my home.
Terrific. Now, money owed for COVID debt is your counterclaim.
Yes.
Which is what?
It is a total of $55.35, I believe.
For what?
That is the unpaid rent.
But you didn't pay his rent, you just told me.
Right, and so this is the outstanding balance of the rent that he never paid that I'm responsible for as the master tenant.
Oh, no, you just told me that you got your security deposit back. If you got your security deposit back, sir, that means that the landlord is finished with you.
According to the law...
Not according to the law. If you got your security deposit back, the entire security deposit, the landlord has written it off, because otherwise he would have taken your security deposit if you owed him or her money. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very simple.
I understand what you're saying.
It's very simple.
I wish I could explain that to them in your...
Well...
in your manner.
I want to tell you something. I've been here a long time. If a landlord is owed $5,000,
yes,
he doesn't say, well, tenant owes me $5,000, but his apartment was clean. I'm going to give him back his $2,000 security deposit. That doesn't happen.
So
only in the land of Oz does that happen.
They might live there.
No, they might live there, but I don't live there. Okay. You owe him $1,250 for security deposit. This case is over. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to bring...
Bye.
Well, I was a little upset.
He's being a drama queen.
The clause in the lease was to prevent people from basically taking advantage of the fact that they've been living in a place for a long time and gouging rent for new tenants.
He said I was price gouging him because he was enough to pay more rent than he might have if he had done some more research.
They were trying to make it equal, and every place that I've lived in, there was always an equitable share of the rent. Like, no one was ever gouging anybody, so I felt that I was unjustly charged.
Well, I can't say it wasn't very satisfying to hear the judge call his claims ridiculous to his face.
Basically, he was leaving the front door open, making it so my dog could escape easily. He was filling the house up with smoke.
We both burned sage.
He was basically trying to get me riled up. He wanted me to move.
While I am disappointed that I won't be able to recover some of his COVID debt.
Basically, the moment that he was, it was inconvenient for me to be there, he tried to make my life miserable.
I'm glad that I will never have to see him again, and this is done.
I'm not living with roommates ever again. I've got my dog, and we're cool.
He was a nightmare, and I never have to see him.
Far be it from me to second guess another judge, but it would seem to me sort of outrageous unless there was some sort of a physical altercation. Why anyone, because he clearly was excluded from his house. He left first, and he said, involuntarily. Would anybody exclude
the original tenant?
The original
when I read the papers, I thought the same thing. I thought that was outrageous, that they would throw out the primary leaseholder on a lease in favor of his subtenant, which may or may not have been legal to begin with.
I can understand it if there was something more serious, but harassment, I just don't understand it. But
I didn't.
Mine is not to wonder why. Mine is but to do what I do. And I don't think that when you come into a court where you have at least participated marginally in a giveaway, to then come in and say, you know what, there's a technical thing. He wasn't supposed to charge me this much rent because I didn't occupy this much of the apartment, whatever. Ridiculous when you didn't pay rent for 7 months anyway. It made my job a lot easier.
Gonzalez is suing his neighbors, John and Heather Gilbert, for truck damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2095, Gonzalez versus Gilbert.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes, ma'am.
You're seeking substantial amount of money to refurbish your car after it was hit by the defendant's car while your car was parked.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendants are seeking the same amount of money because they say that despite the fact that one of them did in fact hit your parked car, it was your fault. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who was driving?
I was driving.
Okay. Mr. Gilbert, on what date did this incident happen?
February 3rd.
What time?
It's about 5:30 in the morning.
Who was in the car with you?
Nobody. I was by myself. I was going to pick up my son
You were going to pick up your son from where?
from his mother's house to take him to school.
And where does he go to school that he has to be there at 5:30 in the morning?
He doesn't have to be there at 5:30. I have to leave at 5:30 to get him there by 7.
Do you take him to school every day?
No.
What was different about February 3rd?
His mother, stepfather, and the rest of their family was out of town. They had asked me to take him to school that day.
Just for that one day?
Yep.
The yep is not an answer.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
is an
Your Honor.
answer. Okay, so it's about 5:30 in the morning, and?
I left my house. It was
Look at me.
raining. It was cold. It's pretty much the same route I take every day, not at that same time. I was approaching a stop sign at an intersection by the plaintiff's house, and I seen, I guess, either a reflection or what I thought were lights headed in my direction. So I swerved. And
Okay, you're still traveling, so you're moving. Does somebody have a diagram of where this happened? There it is. Okay. You were approaching a stop sign.
yeah, I was approaching an intersection.
So right on...
Were you there?
No, ma'am.
Sit down.
Yes, ma'am.
You were approaching an intersection.
Yeah.
It's a two-way road.
Yeah.
And it looks to me from that, is that an accurate representation?
Yeah, except for there was another vehicle on the other side of the road.
Okay, but it looks to me that you're traveling sort of in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it floods.
Okay, and a car is coming from something. You're not sure what.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what.
You
was
were not sure what.
And I swerved. I just got over to the proper side of the road.
And your car swerved, and when your car swerved, it hit that blue car that's sitting there. That's the plaintiff's car that was sitting in front of his house.
Mm-hmm.
Is not an
Yes, ma'am.
answer. Yes. Okay. Now, do you want to tell me what you did next?
I went through the intersection, turned around to follow what I thought might have been a vehicle headed my direction. And when I didn't see a vehicle, I took my vehicle home. I parked it. I got my insurance information, my driver's license, and I walked back to his house to trade insurance information with him.
Okay. You have a video of this incident?
Yes, ma'am.
From where?
From my surveillance cameras.
Is it set up for me to watch it
Yes, ma'am.
here?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm ready. That's your car, sir?
Yes.
Okay, let's see that again.
Notice how the truck is covered?
Okay, so you hit the plaintiff's car hard enough to push it up on the curb.
Speed limit is 30 miles an hour.
I've just asked you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It looks as if you hit it hard enough to push it up on the curb.
Yes, I did.
But you told me a moment ago, Mr. Gilbert, and you just piped in that the speed limit there is 30 miles an hour. You said you were slowing down for a stop sign.
I said I was approaching a stop sign.
Well, when you're approaching a stop sign, you don't approach a stop sign at 30 miles an hour, especially if it's in a neighborhood that you've been in. But according to you, you drive that neighborhood regularly.
Yep.
However, not at that time. That's what you said.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you are approaching a stop sign, when I approach a stop sign, and if I know there's a stop sign there, I start applying my brakes a little bit before. Now, I do drive with some people who sort of like to play chicky with a stop sign, you know. Maybe the stop sign is going to move. Maybe it's going to become a welcome mat. So they wait until they get right up to it and put their brakes on. But that's not what you told me you did.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So now I'm going to say, if you were going very slowly, sir, approaching a stop sign, you wouldn't have hit his car with such force that you push him up on the curb. Okay. Your defense is to this action, as I said, that he was parked and he had this car that was covered and it was parked facing the wrong direction, which is totally irrelevant as to was facing the wrong
according to
direction.
Texas state
It
law.
was on. It's covered over, so you don't know which direction it was facing in. Certainly, the light wasn't on it. If you're
I've passed this.
I didn't ask you for anything. You weren't there.
Yes, ma'am.
You weren't there.
Yes, ma'am, but
She lives in the neighborhood. She drives by it every day.
For
Just a
30
second.
years.
What do I need that for? I have a video.
Okay.
I have a
Did
video.
you see the stop sign in the video? No. You have no idea how close I was.
You just told me you were approaching a stop sign.
Yeah,
Would
there
you
is
read
a
that
stop
back to
sign.
me?
There is a stop sign.
Would you read that back to me? I was approaching a stop sign. Does he say I slowed down? I was approaching a stop sign. I don't remember.
It's about.
I didn't say. I did not.
Now
say,
you can leave.
I did not say I was slowing down.
Now you can leave.
I did not say I was slowing down. I said I was approaching a stop sign.
Okay, that's what I thought. But that's why we have Whitney.
Let's see, he says he was approaching a stop sign at an intersection by the plaintiff's house, and I can see either a reflection or what I see lights headed in my direction, so I swerve.
Now I would like to see that video again one more time. I would like to see if I see something coming towards you. Actually, I don't see another vehicle coming towards you. Is that a truck parked there?
It's a food truck behind it. It's like catty corner to his vehicle. There's a food trailer there that had all of the light, right.
A food truck on the other side of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
A food truck that you could see, but that's parked.
Well, I assume since there was no actual lights coming, I assume maybe that's what light reflected off of.
You don't assume anything. All you know is you saw something that made you swerve.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether it was there or not there. So am I getting the fact that your total defense is based on the fact that his car shouldn't have been parked there?
Yes, ma'am. Or covered.
Yeah, well, but that's a finable offense, Mr. Gilbert. That's a finable offense.
If it doesn't cause an accident.
No, I don't think it caused the accident. You caused the accident.
How did
you
I cause
caused the accident. This is an inert object.
According to my HOA guidelines, that vehicle is supposed to be in his garage. According to Texas state law, it's not supposed to be on the road.
And I'm going to tell you, I absolutely agree with you that that's a finable offense if his car is parked.
So
you're trying to interrupt me.
Okay.
That it's a finable offense. The question is his car being parked illegally the proximate cause of this accident? That's the question.
Would that be a fair? It is.
I didn't ask you a question unless you went to law school.
Huh? No,
unless you went to law school. Am I in the realm? You're closer than that, was Palsgraf versus Long Island Railroad. His car may have been parked in the wrong spot. Yeah. If you had somebody that left a baby carriage with a baby on the street, which is certainly against the law and would be a neglectful act on the part of the parent, and if you happen to swerve up to avoid something and hit that baby carriage, you can't say that baby carriage is the cause of the accident.
No,
you're the cause of the accident.
No, the owner of the baby carriage is.
No, you are.
No, they are. How am I responsible for their baby carriage?
Because your car is moving, sir, and if you're approaching a stop sign, you're not supposed to be going.
If the vehicle wasn't covered, you could see the reflectors that are on it. That's what they're there for.
Reflectors on what?
Reflectors on the truck that's covered. They have headlights, turn signals, everything that's reflective that you could see. There was no reflectors or signals for me to see to know it was there.
You would have hit it whether it was covered or not.
Horse.
Very good. May I please see the...
That's horse. I wouldn't have hit it could I seen it.
Kevin, I want to see what he's got as far as work for the car. Okay, so this is clearly a project car, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's people. It don't run.
Get him out of here.
Let's go.
He's done. He's done.
Okay.
Thank you, Lord.
Oh, that makes my life so much easier.
Claims his neighbor, John Gilbert, hit his classic pickup truck. John is countersuing for car damage and harassment.
By the way, both the defendant and his wife have a counterclaim. Their counterclaim is for damages to their car and for harassment. Well, since neither one of them can keep control of themselves, the counterclaim is dismissed. I'm looking at this truck, Mr. Gonzalez. When did you purchase it, sir, and from whom?
In October of last year. I purchased it online.
Do you have the bill of sale from when you purchased it?
I don't have the bill of sale, but on the paperwork, I have the post on Facebook on how much I paid for it. It was for $8,000.
Okay.
I also have an appraisal on there as well.
I see the appraisal, but I don't have what it's going to take to fix the spot where he damaged the car. He damaged the car in this whole side end.
Yes.
I mean, he's not going to give you a classic car.
Well, I know.
That's not going to happen.
I know.
Okay. That's not going to happen. And certainly, you do understand that I'm not awarding you anything close, even though they're two obnoxious people, anything close to $10,000. You do understand that, Mr. Gonzalez. You're going to have to get this car fixed right now. I'm looking. Where is a invoice for either the work you had done or an estimate to fix that part of the car that he injured?
I cannot give that to you because
well, then I don't have it,
the vehicle is a classic. It's very hard to find that type of vehicle.
Well, then what you're asking me is to guess, sir.
Well, I can give you the rates as far as how much.
You can't give me anything.
Okay.
You have to take the car in to somebody who deals with classic cars. This is a 70-year-old truck, and it's certainly beat up. You had it covered for a long time. It shouldn't have been on the street. You do know that. And I assume that since it's not driven, you didn't have it insured.
Well, I took it out for Halloween, just for the kids.
Well, I mean, where do you suggest that I conjure up a figure of $10,000 when you have a car that's a year old that has never been driven, that you take out and it's a Halloween ornament? So let me explain this to you. I have to guess at a figure. I would be prepared to award you $2,000 to fix your car because I did see that it had to be damaged as a result of the damage to the defendant's car. If you feel as if you would fare better in your local small claims court where this case came from, because I have dismissed their counterclaim, I will dismiss your case without prejudice and you can take it back to the lower court. Take your choice.
I'll go ahead and take it from you. I know I'm not going to get anything from them.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. Counterclaims dismissed. Fix your car. Thank you.
This court is adjourned. Well, I didn't agree on the price, but with them kind of people, I'm not going to get my money back. It's time to get it repaired.
I think you have to be a certain kind of person to not take any accountability when you hit a stationary object. I'll admit, I think that it was probably a 90%, 10% split, 10% plaintiff's fault for parking on the street. I looked up the section code in Texas and did find that if you leave a car longer than 5 days on the street, you're in violation of a code. But like you tried to explain to the very hot-headed defendant, that's a finable offense. That doesn't mean you can ram into it with your vehicle and not be at fault. I just don't know how you take zero accountability after hitting a stationary object.
I don't know either, but that's, I think, a problem with a country that's grown up in the last 50 years, that it's never your fault.
Yep.
It's always somebody else. It's the state's fault. It's the city's fault. It's somebody else's fault. And it's sad because I know that there was lots of acrimony between the two of them without it. But they were hotheads. This is the first time you ever saw me send somebody out?
A long time.
Yeah,
long time since I've seen it. Yeah. But when they're clearly not getting the message and they're being hostile, that's not the proper way to come to court.
No.
Especially when you're in the wrong.
All right, but they have to live near each other. I hope that they sort of get it together.
Vanessa Howard is suing her former friend, Ontrell Brooks, for a car loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Hello. Case 2108, Howard versus Brooks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Howard, your case is simple. You claim a loan to the defendant for the down payment on a car.
Yes.
When did you make this loan?
March 24th of this year.
How much was it?
I gave him $1,500 and he paid $300.
Where did you take the money from?
I had it at my home.
In cash?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a hairstylist. I'm an owner-operator.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's the sole source of your income?
Yes. I own a salon business. I'm opening my second one.
Tell me how you know the defendant.
He was a client of a former stylist many years ago, so I met him through the salon.
Did you have any sort of relationship with him?
At the time that I met, no.
No. At the time that you gave him this loan?
We were friends.
What did he say he needed the loan for?
To get a vehicle.
To get a car?
He was at Mercedes trying to purchase another car, and I knew he had a baby on the way, so I felt it was...
I want to know what he said to you.
He said that he needed help with the down payment. He was short some for a down payment on a car that he wanted.
Did you have that conversation on the phone or in person?
Yeah, he called me and asked me for originally $2,500 to help him with the down payment. And I told him, well, I don't know if I have that much. I'll see what I can get him. I had the $1,500. He came to pick it up at my home.
And that was on the 24th of March?
Yes.
When did you purchase your car?
I believe it was the 24th as well.
You have any paperwork for the car? What paperwork do you have there? I just want to see what you brought with you today.
Basically, the lien holder paper.
And what is that supposed to tell me?
I believe it has the date on there when I purchased it.
Okay. And how much did you put down on the car?
$9,000.
Did you trade in a car?
No.
Why did you need $2,500 from her?
I actually didn't ask for it. I just mentioned to her that I
No,
needed
just a
it.
second. I asked you a question.
Okay.
Why did you need extra money towards the down payment? Did it affect the payments? Did it affect the insurance? Did it affect the
yes.
premium?
Basically, the car, it was like $74,000. So if I was to put down a lower payment, like you were saying, the payment would be higher for the monthly. So if I put down a little more, it dropped it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she gave you $1,500, not $25,000.
Yes.
But she gave you $1,500.
Yeah.
And she gave that to you around the same time that you purchased the car. Were you current in your insurance payments on the car?
Yes.
And then you crashed the car.
Yes.
And the insurance company paid the lien holder on the car.
Yes.
Made the payout.
Yes.
So you didn't get any money from the insurance.
No.
So now you have no car, right? I don't know if you have a car
I
now.
have a car, yes.
Well, you got another car.
Yes.
What kind of car did you buy?
Tesla.
A Tesla. And how much did you pay for the Tesla?
I put down like $8,000.
Where'd you get the $8,000 from?
I have a place where I hold traveling nurses.
Did you take the money out of a bank or did you have it in cash?
I had it in cash.
The $8,000.
Yeah.
How much money do you make from this business that you have?
It varies depending on how many nurses I have staying there.
So you own the property, or do you manage the property?
I manage the property. So it's basically housing nurses or people that travel for business.
And how long have you had that business?
I've been doing that for maybe a couple years now.
That's how you support yourself?
That, and I do training as well, fitness training.
Okay, so now you paid back $300 of the $15,000, right?
I gave her $300.
Right, and when did you give her the $300?
I'm not quite sure the date, but...
Give me a month.
I'm not quite sure.
When did he give you the $300?
May 17th.
Okay.
Tell me why you gave her back the $300.
I gave it back to her because she basically...
Not basically, this is basically.
Because she kept asking for it, so just to get her off me for a second. So I gave her $300. I didn't feel like I owed it to her because I thought that, you know, it was given to me because we were like really cool.
Just a second. Okay. All right. Well, Miss Howard.
You
Miss
can't
Howard.
be serious.
Miss Howard.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been operating your two salons?
I'm opening a new one now, and the first one was opened in 2012.
Do you live with anyone?
My children.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
How old are they?
I have a 17, 18, and 21-year-old.
Big kids?
Yeah, college and high school, yes.
Who supports them?
I do.
From
their
your
father
work?
helps too, yes.
From your work. Do you live with their father?
No.
No. But he also helps.
Yes,
with
he
them.
does.
And you sound like a really intelligent, put-together woman who's had her own business, who's got 3 kids, or college kids.
Yes.
Moving forward.
Yes.
Why? Why do you think, you know, I know that you work, because if you're a hairdresser and that's your source of income, you work really hard. It takes a long time to accumulate $1,500. You know, I'm sure you get some tips and stuff. That's the cash that you keep.
Yeah.
So you work hard and you've got 3 kids who need money. He wants to buy an uber expensive car and he wants his payments to be lower. So he says to you, not that he needs it. See, he doesn't need it to get a car. He wants it to make his payments lower.
That's not how he presented it to me.
How did he present it to you?
He said he needs help, he needs the money for the down payment, and I knew, he told me that, you know, the situation, his car got taken away or whatever. And
his car got what?
His previous vehicle was taken from him.
From how?
I don't know.
What kind of a car did you have? Before you bought the BMW?
That's what it was. It was a BMW.
Oh, and then you bought a Mercedes?
Yeah.
Okay, so you bought, sorry, I got that confused. You bought the Mercedes using some of her money. Before that, you had a BMW.
Yes.
Okay, and now you have a Tesla. Do you understand how foolish that sounds?
Yes.
You don't want to sound foolish.
Well, like I said, he's had a baby on the way any day now, and my compassion for the situation, I was like, okay, I'll give you that. And I know he's had a source of income. It's not like I've ever known him not to have an income. So I felt like okay, he'll do right by me. Of course, he didn't. We see.
Do you know how many people stand in exactly that spot and say, you know, I trusted him. He gave me this story, gave me that story.
Yes.
And what I'm telling you is most of the people standing there, for some reason that has always baffled me, are women.
As Howard claims her former friend, Ontrell Brooks, owes for a car loan.
Most of the people standing there, for some reason that has always baffled me, are women.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I have guys standing there and say, you know, she asked me for this, and so I knew she had a baby on the way, and I felt sorry for it, so I gave them money.
Right.
Most of the time, they say goodbye, which is what you should have said. And
Absolutely.
You appear to be much too fine a lady and a hardworking lady. Don't give anybody,
no more,
any guy who takes money from you to lower his car payment and buys a car for $75,000 and asks you for $1,000 or $2,000, knowing that you're a working gal and that he didn't need it to buy a car. He could have bought a car for $50,000. He could have bought a car for $30,000.
Right.
Likes to drive fancy cars with somebody else's money, okay?
Yes.
So the only people that do that sort of thing are untrustworthy, usually, as my great-grandmother would call them, bums. So I would suggest that you be smart in the future. You're a hardworking lady. Hold on to your money. If you want to invest in anything, invest in your children's future. We're done here. Judge complaint.
This
court is adjourned.
Mr. Brooks took my money with no intentions of paying back.
I thought it was, she gave it to me.
Oh, car crashed, my tires got slashed.
I thought it was a gift because she really liked me.
Don't let men borrow money.
Lovely woman, hardworking woman. She's going to have a chain, as Dolly Parton would say, have a chain. Going to have a second salon. On the other side, you have somebody with zero judgment.
He's well versed in other people's money.
Why a perfectly sensible, bright woman would take money that she worked really hard for and give it to somebody that she hardly knows.
Women have to be smarter.
The women have to be smarter, worry about themselves.
Yeah.
Hello, xin chào các bạn. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn tô màu bức tranh một đàn gà này. Hãy cùng tô với mình nhé. Gà mẹ cùng với những chú gà con rất là dễ thương. Hãy hết video và xem mình hoàn thành bức tranh nhé. Vậy là chúng mình đã hoàn thiện xong bức tranh ngày hôm nay rồi đây. Các bạn hãy cho mình biết ý kiến của các bạn về bức tranh này nha. Video của mình xin được kết thúc ở đây. Đừng quên nhấn like và follow kênh ủng hộ cho mình nhé. Bye bye, hẹn gặp lại các bạn.